I gave up my career to raise my husband's child. For 15 years, only for them to publicly thank his mistress for making him happy for 8 months. I, 40 female, met my husband James, 42 male, when Ellie, his daughter, was 7 years old. Her mother died when she was 5, and James was straining to juggle his work as a construction supervisor with rearing a small child. We initially met at a mutual friend's housewarming celebration, and he appeared fatigued but dedicated to his daughter. Ellie clung to his thigh throughout the evening, shy in front of the multitude of grown-ups. I offered her some of the dessert I'd brought, and she gradually opened up. After our initial meeting, James requested my phone number. Our first date was at a family-friendly restaurant where Ellie was welcome to join us. I recall thinking it was strange to have a child on a first date, but now I see James was testing how I would connect with his daughter. When I quickly connected with Ellie, he was relieved. She was quiet but intellectual, enjoyed drawing, and clearly needed a mother figure in her life. Over the next few months, we had more family dates than romantic ones. James invited me to Ellie's school plays, soccer events, and even parent-teacher conferences. I did not mind. I had always wanted children, and Ellie's stern little face would light up when she saw me in the crowd. 6 months after we began dating, James asked me to move in with them. Their abode was modest but comfortable. I quit my apartment and my work as a middle school English teacher to care for Ellie. The school where I taught was an hour away from James' place, and it would have been impossible to commute with a little child. Instead, I found a part-time job that paid less but provided me the freedom to be present for Ellie. James worked long hours as a construction supervisor, frequently departing before dawn and returning after Ellie went to bed. I was the one who packed Ellie's lunches with small notes inside, assisted with multiplication tables and spelling tests, attended parent-teacher conferences, and nursed her through stomach viruses and ear infections. I taught her how to braid her hair and how to stand up to the girls who bullied her at school. When Ellie was 8, she began calling me Mom, rather than my first name. The first time it happened, I froze, unsure of James' reaction. But he only grinned and later told me that he was relieved Ellie had found someone to fill the position. Ellie was 9 years old when James and I got married. We held a little ceremony in our backyard for just our family and close friends. Ellie was our flower girl and announced to everyone at the wedding that she was getting a real mom, now. My parents, who were initially suspicious of me marrying a man with a child, eventually warmed around to James after seeing how happy the three of us were together. For 15 years, I devoted myself to our family. I never attempted to replace her original mother. We went to her cemetery every year on her birthday, and I encouraged Ellie to keep a journal of things she'd like to tell her mother if she were still here. On Ellie's 18th birthday, I collected these journal entries into a bound book as a gift, along with images of her growing up that I felt her mother would like seeing. When Ellie was applying to colleges, I took her to campus visits, edited her application essays, and sat up late researching scholarship prospects. James went on several trips when his job schedule allowed, but it was my responsibility to assist her prepare for her future on a daily basis. I did not mind. I was proud of the young woman she was becoming and felt satisfied in my role as her mother. James treated us all to dinner to celebrate Ellie's college acceptance letters. He raised a drink to Ellie's bright future and praised me for being the best mother she could have hoped for. That night, I sobbed happy tears, knowing that despite the hardships, we had successfully built a loving family. When Ellie decided to take a gap year after her second year of college to discover herself, James was sad, but I supported her decision. I assisted her in finding a part-time work at a nearby store and encouraged her to use her leisure time to pursue interests she had not had time for in school. She resumed painting, something she had enjoyed as a child but abandoned in high school when academics became increasingly difficult. Ellie celebrated her 22nd birthday last month. We prepared a large supper at an expensive Italian restaurant downtown that Ellie had always wanted to visit. I made appointments weeks in advance to secure the private dining room with the greatest view of the city. James insisted on inviting some of his coworkers, which seemed unusual given that this was a family gathering, but I didn't question it. I assumed he was proud and wanted to show off our talented daughter. I spent weeks arranging the event, including ordering a special cake with an edible image of Ellie's favorite childhood photo and purchasing a silver bracelet engraved with her birth date and a short message. To my daughter, with love always. I wrapped it in her favorite color paper and enclosed a card with a lengthy note about how proud I was of the woman she had become. The day of the dinner, I picked up the cake, had my hair done, and donned the blue dress Ellie had helped me choose during our last shopping trip together. I arrived at the restaurant early to ensure that everything was perfect. The table decorations, the reserved seating arrangement, and the special dessert menu I had planned with the chef. James and Ellie came together after he picked her up from her friend's place, where she was getting dressed. Ellie hugged me briefly, but she appeared distracted, checking her phone repeatedly. James was similarly remote, checking the door every few minutes as guests arrived. About 20 people went, including my sister and her husband, several of Ellie's high school and college pals, and some James coworkers whom I had never met before. Laura, 35F, in particular, arrived late and made a strong impression. She was dressed in a form-fitting crimson dress and quickly swept the room until she spotted James. She seemed at ease around him from the moment she arrived, laughing loudly at all of his jokes and stroking his arm several times during conversation. I noted this but disregarded it as friendly office behavior, though I did question why I had never heard of her before if they were close colleagues. During supper, I sat at one end of the long table with my sister, while James sat at the other end, beside Laura and across from Ellie. This seating arrangement had not been in my plans. I anticipated our family to sit together, but James had changed them as they arrived, claiming it would allow for greater communication. Throughout the meal, I attempted to engage with the guests around me, but my attention was drawn to the conversation between James, Laura, and Ellie. They were swapping inside jokes and giggling in a way that made me feel strangely alienated from my own daughter's birthday party. After the main meal, the waitress brought out the bespoke cake that I had requested. I stood up to say a few words about Ellie, recalling our first meeting and expressing my admiration for the kind, clever young woman she had grown into. James checked his watch during my brief speech, and Ellie smiled nicely but appeared uneasy. After I sat down, Ellie stood up to make her own speech. She thanked her friends for coming, and then thanked her father for always supporting her financially and allowing her to pursue her aspirations. I waited for her to recognize my position in her life. She glanced directly at Laura and stated, "I'd like to thank Laura for making my father happy over the last 8 months. It's so lovely to see him grin again." The table became utterly silent. Laura gazed down at her plate with a faint, happy smile as James' face became scarlet. I looked about, perplexed, then returned to Ellie, who continued, "I know it's been hard keeping your relationship secret, but I'm glad we don't have to pretend anymore. Laura has been like a friend to me, and I'm happy Dad has found someone who really understands him." Several visitors moved uneasily in their chairs. My sister reached under the table and grasped my hand firmly. I stared at James, who eventually looked at me but couldn't keep my eyes. Laura reached over and squeezed his hand publicly before raising her wineglass to Ellie. "Thanks." In that moment, I realized that my husband had been having an affair with this lady for 8 months, and my stepdaughter, the girl I had nurtured and loved for 15 years, had been aware of it the whole time. Not only had she maintained their secret, but she had picked this public occasion, a celebration I had meticulously arranged, to subject me to humiliation. Without saying anything, I stood up, grabbed my purse, and left the restaurant. I could hear whispers behind me and someone screaming my name, but I didn't turn around. Outside, I noticed I was shaking. I groped for my car keys as footsteps approached from behind me. James screamed out my name as he jogged across the parking lot. When he caught up with me, he grabbed my arm and prevented me from getting into my car. "Let me explain. This isn't how I wanted you to find out." "How long?" I inquired, drawing my arm away from him. "It doesn't matter," he replied, running his hand through his hair. "Things between us haven't been right for years. You must have felt it too." 8 months, according to our daughter," I said. "Our daughter, who you turned against me?" James attempted to explain that his connection with Laura just happened after they worked together on a project. He claimed they hadn't intended to fall in love, but he had been sad for years and didn't know what to tell me. He claimed Laura understood him in ways I never did, and that Ellie accepted their relationship because she saw how happy Laura made him. "I was going to tell you after Ellie's birthday," stated the gentleman. "I never wanted you to find out like this." I wondered if the previous 15 years had meant anything to him. He turned his head away. "You've been a good stepmother to Ellie, and I'll always be grateful for that. But Laura and we connect on a different level. She's more aligned with my goals for the future." I got into my car and drove to my sister's house that night, leaving the gift for Ellie in the trunk. My sister arrived home an hour later, bringing my coat that I had left at the restaurant and saying that most of the people had left immediately after my departure, leaving an uneasy celebration that swiftly dissipated. The following day, I returned home while James was at work. I packed my essentials, clothes, personal documents, family photos, and a few sentimental items I couldn't bear to part with. I realized some of Laura's belongings were already in our bedroom. I left my wedding ring on the kitchen counter with a note indicating that I would be filing for divorce. I did not mention Ellie in the note. I couldn't find words to describe the magnitude of that betrayal. Over the next 2 weeks, I stayed with my sister while looking for a new apartment and met with a divorce attorney. I took a leave of absence from my part-time job, unable to concentrate on lesson preparations and student requirements while my personal life was in disarray. My sister assisted me in my search for affordable flats, and I eventually found a one-bedroom place in a different section of town, away from the area where I might run across James or Ellie. Throughout those weeks, James called and texted incessantly, alternately apologizing for how I found out and blaming me for being emotionally distant during our marriage. He felt I concentrated too much on Ellie and not enough on him. That I'd ceased being the lady he married. That I did not encourage his professional objectives. With each message, his tone became more accusing, as if his affair was my responsibility. I didn't react to the majority of his communications, instead corresponding with my lawyer about practical things about our shared finances and the house. After a particularly unpleasant voicemail in which he described me as frigid and cruel, I eventually blocked his number. Ellie also called multiple times, leaving voicemails in which she apologized but stated that she was only trying to encourage her father's pleasure. In one message, she explained that Laura had first confided in her about her attraction to James, making Ellie feel special and included in an adult secret. Later messages became defensive, with Ellie claiming that she didn't understand why I was overreacting and that these things happen in families all the time. I didn't answer any of her texts because I couldn't reconcile the daughter I raised with the young woman who had so openly deceived me. 3 weeks after moving out, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Ellie, texting on a friend's phone. "I need to talk to you urgently. Please. It's important." Against my better judgment and my sister's advice, I agreed to meet her in a little diner near my new apartment the next day. When I got to the diner, I scarcely recognized her. Her normally immaculate appearance was disheveled. She looked like she hadn't slept for days. Her clothing was crumpled, her hair was dirty and hurriedly pulled back, and black circles surrounded her eyes. She was nervously shredding a paper napkin and burst into tears when she saw me. I sat across from her, keeping my emotional distance despite her obvious distress. When the waitress arrived, I ordered a coffee I didn't want just to give Ellie time to settle herself. When the waitress left, Ellie dried her eyes with the shredded napkin and started speaking quickly between sobs. Ellie stated that Laura had moved into our house a few days after I departed. She had reclaimed the master bedroom, replaced family portraits with her own artwork, and began remodeling the living room without consulting James or Ellie. Laura announced she was pregnant with James's kid 2 weeks later, during a dinner at which Ellie was already feeling uneasy in what had previously been her family home. According to Ellie, James appeared stunned by the news but quickly recovered, toasting to their new beginning. After Laura went to bed that night, James summoned Ellie to his home office. He informed her that they intended to turn her bedroom into a nursery and that she needed to move out. He advised she take the modest guest room in the basement if she wished to remain. When Ellie objected, pointing out that the basement room lacked sufficient windows and that she had lived in her room since childhood, James reminded her she was now an adult who needed to support their new family. He reminded her that she had been supportive of his relationship with Laura from the start and questioned why she was now being tough. He claimed I was being selfish. Ellie informed me that he believed Laura required less stress during her pregnancy and that her attitude was creating a toxic environment. Ellie had relocated her necessary possessions to a friend's apartment the next day, believing it to be temporary until she could find her own place. However, her part-time retail job did not give enough income to pay for an apartment in our pricey city, and she had missed far too many shifts during the crisis. When she got back to work, her manager informed her that she had been replaced. She now had no income, no permanent place to live, and her friend's patience had worn thin after a week of couch surfing. "I tried applying for other jobs," Ellie told me, "but I keep breaking down during interviews. I can't focus. I can't sleep. I don't know what to do." I sat there, stunned, listening to her narrative and watched tears trickle down the face of the girl I had raised, the young woman who now appeared hopelessly lost. After she finished speaking, I inquired, "Did you know about their affair the entire time?" Ellie nodded slowly before looking down at the table. "Laura told me first," she confessed. "She came to the store where I worked about 8 months ago. She bought me lunch and told me she and Dad had feelings for each other. She said she wanted my blessing before things got serious." Ellie went on to tell how Laura had formed a connection with her, taking her shopping and her extravagant gifts that James could never afford on his own wage. Laura had told Ellie that they will soon be a real family, and that I was preventing her father from experiencing true happiness. According to Laura, James had chosen me because he needed help parenting Ellie, but now that Ellie was older, he deserved a chance at true love. "She made it sound romantic," Ellie commented quietly. "Like Dad had sacrificed his happiness for years and finally deserved something for himself." Ellie acknowledged that she had helped them plan their encounters, including lying to me about James's location when he was actually with Laura. She had removed suspicious text messages from James's phone when he left it unattended, and she had once diverted my attention with a staged issue regarding a college assignment so James could meet Laura for a weekend getaway. Laura said you would understand eventually, Ellie added. She said most modern families go through transitions like this, and we would all be friends someday. I took a long breath and reminded Ellie of everything I'd given up for her, including my full-time teaching job, independence, and 15 years of my own life. I pointed out that I had attended every school function, but James had missed the majority of them due to work. I had taught her to drive, spending hours in parking lots and on quiet streets, while James said he lacked the patience. Ellie sobbed harder with each example, nodding to acknowledge the shared memories. And how did you repay that devotion? I asked. You lied to my face for 8 months. You helped your father deceive me. You sat in our home, eating meals I cooked, accepting gifts I bought, all while knowing that the two people I loved most in the world were betraying me. I told Ellie that her betrayal hurt more than James since I never expected her to choose me over her biological father. I had always taught her that blood links were vital and sacred, but I raised her as if she were my own daughter, with all of my maternal love. And she had viewed me as disposable, a placeholder to be dumped when no longer required. Then I stood up, paid for my untouched coffee, and told Ellie that she had made her decision 8 months earlier to help her father cheat. I will not be helping you now. But where am I supposed to go? Ellie inquired, her voice increasing with panic. I have nowhere to live, no job. Dad won't take my calls anymore, and Laura has changed the locks on the house. I tried to get my remaining things yesterday, and they wouldn't let me in. That's not my problem, I said. You're an adult, Ellie, figure it out. Ellie shouted out to me as I walked out of the diner, saying that she had made a mistake and that James had twisted her. She claimed Laura had promised they would all live happily together, but she had no idea he would forsake her once she was no longer helpful to their narrative. Please, she sobbed as I approached the door. You're the only mother I've ever really known. I paused, resting my hand on the door handle. I recognized not the young woman who had betrayed me, but the 7-year-old girl who had previously clung to my knee during thunderstorms. Then I remembered her expression when she thanked Laura at the birthday dinner, and I pushed the door open without looking back. That night, I blocked Ellie's phone number and all of her social media accounts. I also banned the phone numbers of mutual acquaintances who could attempt to contact me on her behalf. I changed my email address and informed my office that I would not be accepting personal visitors. 2 days later, my sister informed me that Ellie had written on social media about being homeless and betrayed by her family. The post made vague references to mistakes and regrets while portraying her as the victim of circumstances beyond her control. Several relatives have subsequently contacted me, claiming that I am being overly harsh and that Ellie is still young and made a mistake. They say I've raised her for 15 years and shouldn't forsake her now, no matter what she has done. Part of me feels bad about Ellie's circumstances. She is young, and her father has plainly exploited her with the help of his lover. I know how convincing James can be when he wants something, and how easy he can make others feel guilty when they disagree with him. I saw this pattern throughout our marriage but always made excuses for him. But another part of me can't forgive her active role in wrecking my marriage and our family. She did more than simply keep their affair a secret. She also aided it by interfering and fabricating alibis. She watched as I continued to love and care for her despite knowing I was being duped. And then she publicly insulted me on her birthday in front of friends and family, seemingly without remorse, until the scenario backfired on her. My sister thinks I should assist Ellie locate a place to stay or lend her money for a security deposit. She claims that, despite everything, I am the closest thing Ellie has to a mother. But I doubt I can encounter her again without remembering her betrayal. So, AITA for refusing to assist my stepdaughter after she helped my husband cheat on me and is now dealing with the consequences of her actions. Edit. Thank you for your responses. To clarify several points that people have inquired about. Yes, I legally adopted Ellie when she was 11, so I am her adoptive mother, not simply stepmother. Ellie is now taking a gap year from college. She has college loans and a little scholarship, but she intended to work to save for next year's expenditures. James and I do not have biological children together. I was unable to have children because of medical difficulties uncovered after our marriage. The house is in both of our names, but I left because I couldn't take being there with the memories. My lawyer is in charge of dividing assets. Many people inquired about Ellie's grandparents. James' parents died many years ago, and his former in-laws, Ellie's maternal grandparents, relocated to another country after their daughter died and had little touch with the family. Update 1. It's been a week since I last posted. My lawyer informed me that James wanted to keep the house because Laura is pregnant, and he offered me a lower settlement than I was entitled to. I refused his offer. Meanwhile, a mutual acquaintance informed me that Ellie is now staying with one of James' relatives, who contacted her after reading her social media posts. Update 2. 2 weeks after my original post, I received a handwritten letter from Ellie yesterday. She asked for neither money nor a place to stay. Instead, she published a thorough narrative of how Laura had slowly eased her way into their lives, bringing Ellie things and behaving like a friend while continually pointing out my apparent failings as a wife and mother. Ellie said that she now understands Laura targeted her as a ploy to get to James, and she truly regrets betraying me. She concluded the letter by stating that she does not expect forgiveness but wanted me to know that she recognizes the gravity of her mistake. I have not responded to the letter yet. I'm still absorbing things and working on finalizing my divorce. My lawyer thinks James is now making a more acceptable deal because I have not backed down. Final update. It's been a month since my initial post. The divorce case is moving along. James finally consented to a fair asset distribution after my lawyer threatened to summon Laura for a deposition. I finally contacted Ellie last week after getting her second letter. We met for lunch. Ellie apologized again and admitted that she couldn't erase the damage she had done. She found a tiny apartment with a roommate and will start a new job next week. She did not ask for financial assistance again. I informed Ellie that I needed more time before I could contemplate restoring our relationship. Our trust has been entirely shattered, and I'm not sure it can be mended. I did, however, provide her with the contact information for a therapist who could assist her in processing what had occurred. Several people have asked me if I regret leaving the restaurant that night without confronting James and Laura openly. I do not. Maintaining my dignity was more essential than causing a scene. The fact that their new happy family fell apart so swiftly demonstrates that relationships formed on lies are rarely sustainable. Thank you to everyone who offered their opinions and advice. I am still recuperating, but I am also moving on with my life. I spent 2 years loving someone who never saw me as a priority, giving her everything but only receiving disregard and exploitation. So, I've been keeping this story under wraps for a while, but now it's time to share it all. Warning, this is going to be a long one. Looking back, I realize I was the world's biggest sucker. The clues that my relationship was a disaster were everywhere, but I was too love-blind to notice any of them. I know, it's classic simple behavior. Melissa took over my entire life from the start. I am 27, she is 25, and we met at a friend's housewarming party. I'm generally the cautious type, never the guy who rushes into relationships without considering things through. I've always been the type of man who takes his time and considers the pros and drawbacks. But with Melissa? Holy! She had this way of drawing me in that I couldn't stop. She wasn't even trying, which is what made it so dangerous. She made me laugh like no one other. She had a weird-ass sense of humor that simply worked with me. She could make even the most ordinary Tuesday night feel like a vacation. She was also really hot, which helped. The type of girl who makes your pals email you, "Damn, bro, how'd you land her?" after meeting her for the first time. So, because I was so darn into her, I went all in. Like full throttle, no holding back. I always placed her first. It didn't matter if I was working 12-hour hours that week or had significant business to attend to. If she needed me, I dropped everything and showed up. That promotion I was looking for? I declined because she wanted me to go on a weekend trip with her and her pals. What about my closest friend's bachelor party? She left early since she wasn't feeling well and asked me to come over. I also paid attention to all the minor details about her, her favorite meal, her coffee preferences, which movies made her weep, anything with dogs, and which side of the bed she needed to sleep on. I organized surprise dates and gave her thoughtful gifts, not only on birthdays, but on random Wednesdays to demonstrate that I was thinking about her. I thought of her first. I practically planned my entire life around her, my decisions, my time, and my future plans. Every single thing revolved around her. I even looked at engagement rings, believing she was the one. And for a long time, I assumed she was just as invested in us. This was the lie I kept telling myself. What's the cold truth? She never exhibited the same zeal I threw into that stupid-ass relationship. She just adored being mine and receiving all of the attention. When we initially started dating, everything was great. We had been together for nearly 2 years before everything fell apart. She moved into my house about a year ago, which I actually own and pay the mortgage on myself. I paid everything: mortgage, bills, groceries, even her auto insurance and cell phone bill. I even helped her with school payments. She was finishing up her degree and worked part-time at this coffee shop, so I assumed I was investing in our future together. It's only temporary, I reminded myself. Once she graduates and gets a real job, things will even out. Spoiler alert, they never did. At first, it was very amazing. Melissa was humorous, charming, and energetic. We spent weekends exploring new places, binge-watching series, and simply having fun together. But then things began to change. And I was too dumb to notice. It's incredible how many red flags you can miss when you're wearing rose-colored glasses. For example, despite receiving money from her parents, she never volunteered to pay for anything. Or how she'd talk about her house and kitchen, when I was the one who was paying for everything. Or how she'd make tiny remarks about my pals being dull or my work being too corporate while happily spending the money from that corporate job. What is the worst part? She enjoyed telling everyone how amazing a boyfriend I was. She'd write these long-ass messages on Instagram about how blessed she was and how I was the best boyfriend ever, along with photographs of the presents I bought her or the trips I paid for. Her pals thought I was awesome. My buddies thought she was incredible. Everyone believed we were the perfect pair. What about behind closed doors? That's where the truth resided. And I was too blind to notice it. I continued offering justifications for her. When she would cancel arrangements with my family to spend time with her pals, I would convince myself that she is simply independent. When she would spend hundreds of dollars on clothes yet forget to contribute to groceries, I'd imagine she was still figuring out adulthood. When she rolled her eyes at things that were important to me, I convinced myself that we simply had different interests. I was creating excuses for her because I did not want to confront the truth. That perhaps, just maybe, I loved her more than she loved me. And it's not like she was some evil mastermind. She wasn't twirling her villain mustache or planning how to use me. She took, and I gave. Over and over again. It became our dynamic. She expected me to offer everything, while I anticipated little in return. That's the messed up part about love. You can sometimes convince yourself that's how it should be. But the warning indicators weren't immediately obvious. Just minor things I decided to ignore because I didn't want to accept the fact that I was being played like a fiddle. Melissa gradually became more distant. Not particularly obvious, just minor details that I overlooked. For example, she'd cease waiting for me to have dinner once I texted that I was on my way home. Or how she'd be staring at her phone the entire time we were together, chuckling at whatever she was looking at and scarcely acknowledging anything I said. I'd be talking about my day, look up, and notice her gaze had not left her screen once. She then began to go out much more frequently, 3 to 4 times per week. She'd say she was hanging out with the girls or had a study group, and I didn't take it seriously at first. I mean, she is entitled to her own life, right? I'm not a controlling boyfriend. However, it quickly developed into a pattern. Weekends, weeknights, random evenings, I'd come home from a 10-hour shift, eager to spend time with her, only to discover an empty house and a half-assed text stating, "Out with friends, don't wait up." When she returned home, she was either still on her phone or went straight to bed, stating she was exhausted. No. How was your day? No hugging, no love, nothing. What went wrong? I was still doing everything around the house, including cooking, cleaning, laundry, food shopping, and paying all bills. Meanwhile, she was rent-free, bill-free, and could do anything she wanted whenever she wanted. And I simply let it happen. I tried bringing it up once, remained calm, and told her I felt we weren't connecting anymore. She waved it off with some nonsense like, "I just need some me time, you're overthinking it." Overthinking? I was working more than 50 hours per week to support this relationship. And was I the problem for wanting to feel connected? But I did not want to appear clinging or controlling. So, like a moron, I dropped it. It worsened from there. On Saturdays, I would wake up to find she had already left. She'd text hours later, saying she was with the girlfriends, or just say something generic like "out." I stopped asking for information because she would become defensive and act as if I was grilling her. "Why don't you trust me?" she'd demand. And I'd back off quickly. Classic manipulation. But I couldn't see it then. And she never went the extra mile for me, as I did for her. I'd organize these nice dates, and she'd say, "That's sweet," but never reciprocated. When I was stressed at work, my boss was an absolute nightmare. She'd text, "I'm here for you," but never show up. When my father became ill and had to be hospitalized, she went to brunch with her friends rather than accompanying me. "Hospitals freak me out," she said. I remember one time when I spent about a month organizing her birthday. She made appointments at a posh restaurant she had been wanting to try. She got tickets to see her favorite band. She even arranged with her friends for this whole surprise affair. It cost me nearly $1,000 all in. But I felt it was worthwhile to see her happy. Do you know what she did for my birthday a month later? She bought me a $50 Amazon gift card and spent most of supper texting her buddies. When I expressed disappointment, she had the audacity to inquire, "What? I got you a present." She stated it with a pouty expression, as if she deserved a standing ovation for remembering my birthday. Meanwhile, I'm standing there holding a gift card with the digital receipt still attached, indicating she purchased it that morning. Really thoughtful, babe. Our connection was extremely unequal. Looking back, if I was even 10 minutes late getting home when she wanted to go somewhere, she'd be upset for hours. But she could disappear for the entire evening without warning, and I was expected to be fine with it. If I wanted to spend time with my guys, I had to tell her a week in advance. She'd make plans with her buddies while we were doing something else, then just bounce. I started seeing other strange things too. How her girls' nights always seemed to include a large number of boys in the photos she was tagged in. She'd always place her phone away from me when texting. How she'd get all dressed up, full makeup, gorgeous outfit, for study group. How she'd arrive home at 2 a.m., smelling of wine and cologne that wasn't mine. I started getting these knots in my gut whenever she went out. I had a strong sensation that something was wrong. But I continued pushing it down, telling myself I was overly paranoid. What irritated me was that all of my friends noticed it. Kyle approached me at a BBQ and asked if I was okay, as Melissa seemed uninterested. And I defended her. I was truly angry at him. I told him he did not comprehend our relationship. My sister informed me straight out that Melissa was using me as an ATM. And I didn't speak to her for 2 weeks after that. That's how much I was in denial. I was paying for this chick's entire life, housing, food, bills, and even her tuition, while she treated me like an irritating roommate she just had to be nice to on occasion. And I could not see it. Perhaps I didn't want to see it. Because seeing it would imply admitting I had been duped. That the relationship in which I had devoted 2 years, thousands of dollars, and all of my emotional energy was a fraud. That is a hard pill to take. However, reality finally smacks you in the face. My friend once asked me whether our relationship ended abruptly or gradually. The truth is, it was both. Like a frog in gently boiling water, I had no idea I was being roasted alive until it was too late. Melissa had always been somewhat selfish. However, it took a long time to register. Because she would still do the bare minimum of relationship activities. She still claimed I loved you and would occasionally do something nice for me, as long as it didn't bother her too much. When other individuals were around, she continued to act as if we were a team. But behind closed doors, things only got worse. Then our plans lost their meaning for her. We'd agree to watch a movie on Friday night, but by Friday, she'd forgotten and made plans with her pals. When I reminded her of our intentions, she sighed heavily, as if I was being a burden. "Can't we just do it tomorrow instead?" she'd ask, already dressed to go out. And when we were together, which was becoming increasingly rare, she'd act as if being with me was a task she had to complete. She'd frequently check the clock, use her phone, or mention how much fun she was missing out on. And when I called her out on her attitude, she would gaslight me. "You're too sensitive. It's all in your head." Or, my personal favorite, "You're being controlled." She was a master of the quiet treatment. If I did something to irritate her, didn't get the exact brand of whatever she requested. I questioned her about arriving home at 3 a.m. I asked her to chip in for groceries on occasion. She'd get chilled. Would not speak to me. Would not look at me. I would pretend I wasn't even in the room. It could last several days. And I'd have to apologize simply to make it stop. Even when I had not done anything wrong. It was exhausting. My mental health was deteriorating. I could not sleep. Could not concentrate at work. I was constantly on edge, wondering which version of her I would find when I got home. Will she even be there? Would she speak to me? Or will I be ignored for some insignificant infraction? I started having persistent stress headaches. I lost weight because my appetite was shattered. My work performance suffered, which just added to my stress. Because I needed the job. To keep a roof over her head, and the vehicle she drove, in her name. Throughout it all, she kept talking. Never once was I asked whether I was okay. I never realized I was disintegrating at the seams. As long as the bills were paid, she could do whatever the heck she wanted. I could as well have been a ghost. That's when the wheels started turning in my mind. The internal struggle started. I started asking myself difficult questions. Was I really going to continue living like this? Allowing someone to deplete my emotional, mental, and financial resources? Was I being weak by staying? Or is it selfish to consider leaving? For a while, I fought it. I told myself I'd be a jerk for walking out. That partnership requires effort, patience, and sacrifice. But even the strongest man can only carry so much dead weight until it draws him down. And I was finished drowning. I had already checked out. So I started thinking about my departure strategy. How can I leave without destroying the entire place? Do I start small and gradually pull back? Or take off the band-aid and walk? Would she care? Is it only my pride that hurts? I did not want to be the man who quit up. But I also wasn't going to be the idiot that stuck around a losing game. What's the truth? I was already halfway there in my head. My body simply hadn't caught up yet. Then came the darkness, which propelled me the rest of the way. It wasn't a dramatic explosion. There's no catching her in the act. There was no screaming match. No smashing doors. If I had to wager, cheating was undoubtedly involved. But no, the item that opened my eyes was small, simple, but it hit harder than a slap in the face. It was the type of event that did more than just sting, it makes a mark. It was Friday night. I had been grinding all week. Late nights at the workplace, wrapping out a major project. Exhausted wasn't the right term, but I wasn't going to crash on the couch like some beaten down person. Nah. I had one final move to make. I was not searching for quality time. I wanted to flip the script. To let her know, without stating it explicitly, that I had already psychologically exited this relationship. I entered the house at 6, dropped my keys on the counter, and heard her music screaming from the bedroom. I already knew what it meant. She was preparing to leave. Again? Another night with the ladies. According to the Instagram photographs, there were also some strange males. 3 weekends in a row. The third time, I'd be left sitting alone in my own damn house, like an afterthought. I knocked once before pushing open the bedroom door. She was standing in front of the mirror in nothing but her underpants, doing cosmetics as if she were preparing to walk the runway. Normally, I would have paused to savor the scenery. Not tonight. Tonight, I was not here to admire anything. Hey, I said, my tone smooth and casual. Just another guy looking to spend the night in, right? We were thinking we could stay in tonight. Order some food, throw on a movie, just chill. Been a while since we had a night to ourselves. She did not even look at me. I didn't pause. Did not flinch. I just kept applying mascara as if I wasn't standing there. Can't. Promised the girls I'd meet them at Ashley's. We're hitting that new club downtown after. The girls. Always the girls. It's funny how the girls' Instagram images had more male buddies than a frat house. I kept my voice quiet and my posture relaxed, leaning against the door frame as if I had all the time in the world. Yeah, I thought maybe you'd want to catch up. We've barely crossed paths all week. I come home and you're either gone or heading out the door. She eventually looked at me in the mirror. Her eyes flickered with annoyance. It's not my fault you work so much. So there it was. That was a small poke. She understood why I was working so hard. To keep the house. To pay for her car. The bills. She didn't even acknowledge that all she had came as a result of me busting my ass. But sure, let's toss that back at me. I nodded slowly. Allow the silence to continue for a second. I continued. Relationships take work too. Just thought maybe we should make time for that. That is when she turned. Mascara wand in hand. I felt like I was just an annoyance in her night. She then dropped the line that sealed it. You're not my priority right now, okay? I have other things going on. The way she hurled those remarks at me was casual as hell. As if she were informing me we were out of milk. While applying mascara for some other dude to enjoy. The chef's kiss of disdain. Absolute masterclass in how to end a relationship in 10 words or less. 2 years. It comes down to just one line. The entire relationship boils down to me not even being on her list. I did not move. I didn't say anything for a moment. Just standing there. Allowing it to land. Allowing her to hear how quiet I could be when I was finished caring. What did you just say? I inquired. Not because I didn't hear it, but I did want her to hear it again. I wanted her to really consider what she had just said to me. She sighed, returning her gaze to the mirror, her tone casual and dismissive. Don't be so dramatic. I already have plans. We can hang out tomorrow or whatever. And that was all. The moment. The last nail. After all I'd done. After each time, I put her first. I was not even an afterthought. I served as a placeholder. An ATM with a heartbeat. I did not yell, did not argue. That would have given her excessive credit. I just stood there, looking at her reflection. I'm wondering how the hell I let things get this far. How I let her believe she could walk all over me and I'd just keep taking it. But that was the last time she spoke to me as if I were nothing. Fine, I answered in a firm voice. Calm. Go have fun. And I intended it. Go have some fun, Melissa. Enjoy it while you can. Because of the man standing in front of you. He's already left. I will, she responded. Not even picking up on my tone. She simply kept applying her makeup, as if we had been talking about the weather, not the end of our relationship. She departed around 20 minutes later. Did not even say goodbye properly. I just yelled, later, as the front door slammed. I stood in the kitchen, listening as her car pulled out of the driveway. I felt a strange sense of serenity rush over me. It felt like something had finally clicked into place. I took a soda and sat on the couch. Just thinking. I'm replaying the past few months in my thoughts. All the times she had brushed me off. All the girls' nights that strangely featured guys I had never met. Throughout my own relationship, I felt like an afterthought. I took out my phone and began scrolling through our text history. It was an eye-opener. Page after page of me checking in. Asking about her day. Telling her I miss her. Making plans. What were her responses? Always short. Often, hours later. We frequently canceled or changed our arrangements. When she was going through a difficult time, I would write her paragraph-long letters of encouragement and affection. She'd respond with the BBX, or a thumbs-up emoji. It was all fine there. In black and white. The evidence of her not giving a damn had been in my pocket the entire time. Frustrated, I locked my phone and tossed it onto the couch. But boredom drew me back in. I opened Instagram and scrolled idly through the tales, attempting to numb the frustration that was burning beneath my skin. I watched one of Melissa's pals post videos of their night out. Dim lights, loud music, people laughing, drinking, and grinding on the dance floor. The entire atmosphere of the place screamed pandemonium. My thumb paused for a second before swiping up to send a casual message. Is Melissa having a good time? I asked. No emotion. There's no edge. Just a basic question. A few minutes later, the friend responded. Yeah, she's great, totally vibing tonight. Cool. I left it to read. Then the following story appeared. And there she was. Melissa. On the dance floor. Grinding on a guy with his shirt half open and abs on full display. She was giggling, her arms wrapped around his neck. As if she did not have a boyfriend at home. As if she didn't have someone to pay her bills, cover her tuition, and maintain a roof over her head. And with that, the switch switched. I locked my phone, tossed it on the sofa table and lay back, taking it all in. I was not going to argue. I was not going to blow up her phone or have a big confrontation. What's the point? She had already made her decision long before tonight. All that remained was for me to make my own. About an hour later, I heard the key enter the door. She stumbled in, giggling at something on her phone, with no care in the world. She didn't notice me sitting there in the dark lighting. Have fun? I inquired, my tone calm and steady. She jumped and almost dropped her handbag. Jesus, you scared me. She laughed, but it was forced. She appeared disheveled, with smudged makeup and tangled hair. Why are you sitting in the dark like some creep? I shrugged. Just thinking. She began going toward the bedroom, brushing me off like she always did. Like I was a roommate she tolerated. Thinking about what? She asked, looking over her shoulder. I saw her lean back, arms stretched across the couch, calm and cool. The kind of tranquility that comes when you've chosen to stop playing games. About how easy it is to lose respect for someone, I muttered. Not bitter? Just facts. She paused, looking back. What's that supposed to mean? I did not move, didn't blink. Nothing, just an observation. She sighed, irritated. Can we not do this right now? I'm tired and drunk and I just want to go to bed. Yeah, I replied, standing up, my voice calm but sharp. Bet you are. All that hands-on cardio must be wearing you out. This made her freeze. She blinked, confusion flashing in her eyes. What are you talking about? I smiled. You know what I'm talking about, Melissa. She opened her mouth, prepared to lie. I saw it on her face. Prepared to tell me, just fun, just friends. But I did not give her a chance. I didn't want her justifications. I didn't need her phony tears or pathetic apologies. I was done with the game. I'm not in the mood for stories, I replied plainly. Go to bed. She hesitated, as if she were waiting for me to start a battle. Because she realized she was doing something wrong out there. But there wouldn't be one. She no longer deserved that energy. She was not worth it. After that night, I did not simply stop caring. I cut the cord. Hard. I went full ghost mode in my own home. I didn't want to waste energy on someone who had already shown me where I stood in her life. Texting during the daytime? Dead. Are you asking about her classes? Done. Picking up her favorite snacks? Making dinner? Folding her laundry? Asking where she was going or when she'd return? Over. Why bother? If I wasn't her priority, she certainly wasn't going to be mine. She no longer deserved that version of me. But I did not stop there. I began severing the ties that bound her to the life I was paying for. I logged into each account. Car insurance? Gone. Phone bill? Gone. Her streaming services? Gone. I cut her off cleanly. No more free rides on my dime. I wasn't going to pay for her nights out, intoxicated Uber rides, or endless shopping sprees while she pretended to be single in public and treated me as an afterthought in private. What about her tuition payments? Cancelled. Did she want independence? She was going to receive it. At first, she didn't even notice it. She was too preoccupied with her own affairs to realize that her personal butler and private banker had gone off duty. However, after a week, she began to notice the shift. I noticed that the man who had formerly made her the center of his life no longer orbited her. Initially, the stares she gave me were subtle. Confused. Testing. She seemed to be trying to figure out what was wrong but couldn't quite pinpoint it. "You've been quiet lately," she murmured one night, sitting at the far end of the couch, her gaze shifting between mine and her phone. I shrugged without looking up. "Have I?" "Yeah. Is something wrong?" I let the silence continue. Then he gazed up at her, calm, unconcerned. "Nothing that matters to you?" Her brows pushed together. "What's that supposed to mean?" I cocked my head and smirked faintly. "It means exactly what it sounds like. If it's not your priority, why would you care?" Her eyes widened as the knowledge struck her. I was responding to her own words. It landed harder than she imagined. "Are you seriously still upset about that?" "It was just a comment. I didn't mean it." "Sure," I replied, standing up. "Whatever you say." And with that, I walked out of the room. I am not disturbed at all. She was left sitting there, puzzled and uncomfortable in the solitude. I maintained the pressure throughout the next few days. Or rather, I kept the pressure off. I was just absent. Physically there. But I mentally checked out. She'd try to strike up a conversation, and I'd respond coldly, with one word. She would suggest that we go out, and I would shrug. "Nah. Busy." She'd ask whether I was mad, and I'd simply answer, "Nope. Just respect your priorities." When she realized her phone bill hadn't gone through. When her vehicle insurance company contacted her instead of me. When she tried to connect onto Netflix, she learned it was no longer her account. She said nothing at first. Just went silent. Confused? The kind of disorientation that sets in when someone finds the safety net they once took for granted has vanished. Watching her squirm was nearly enjoyable. Confusion turned to frustration. Frustration turns to desperation. She was unused to being ignored. I wasn't used to not being the focus of my own universe. The more I backed away, the harder she reached. Meanwhile, I focused on myself. I go to the gym every day after work. It wasn't because I wanted to appear well for her. But I'd had enough of pretending to care. I started going out with my boys again, the ones she labeled uninteresting because they didn't fit into her small social circle. I got back into my activities. I spent my evenings doing anything I wanted for once. I wasn't living for her anymore, I was living for myself. And damn, it felt great. Then, like clockwork, she began trying. Going home earlier. My favorite takeout is suddenly being brought back. Asking about my day and actually waiting for a response. Dropping small compliments. Trying to snuggle up with me on the couch. Unfortunately, it was too late. I had seen enough. We've heard enough. She was just catching up, and I wasn't on the field anymore. But I allowed her to keep trying. Let her sweat. Allow her to experience what it was like to reach out to someone who did not respond. One night, she snapped. She came at me with tears in her eyes and a shaky voice, as if she were the victim. "I don't understand what's happening," she told me. "Why are you being like this?" My expression remained bland. Cold. "You made it clear, Melissa. I'm not your priority. You've got other things going on." I shrugged. "So now, I'm focusing on my priorities. And honestly, you're not one of them." Her face crumbled. "But that's not fair. I said one thing, one time, and now you're punishing me for it?" I laughed. Hard. Not because it was humorous. But that was pathetic. "One thing, Melissa? You've been showing me I wasn't a priority for months. Every time you blew me off. Every time you took advantage of me. Every time you looked at me like I was just there, like I didn't matter. I went closer, my voice low and firm. I paid for this house. Paid your car insurance. Paid for the food you eat, the bills that keep the lights on, your damn tuition. And all I got in return? You're not my priority. Well, message received, loud and clear. She broke. The tears came quickly, messy. As they always did when she felt control was slipping from her grasp. I didn't mean it like that, she shouted, her voice shaking. I was stressed. I wasn't thinking. I love you. But I was not buying it. I stood there, watching her fall apart. I felt nothing. Simply cold clarity. She could cry rivers, but I was not going to drown in them again. In that instant, the plan came together. I was not going to fight. I would let her weep. Let her believe she still had time to rectify it. And then I'd disappear. Quiet. Clean. She was not worth the drama. Did she want me to be an option? I'd teach her how it feels when a choice simply evaporates. The next day, I awoke at 5 a.m. I packed my essentials. And bounced. By sunrise, I was gone. No note. There's no explanation, just a text. You don't have to worry about me being your priority anymore. I'm gone. And I simply disappeared. She blew up my phone. Calls. Texts. Did not pick up. Didn't respond. Silence is golden. It was about time she realized that. First, she smacked me with some classics. Are you serious? You're being so dramatic. This is childish. Nah. What's childish is expecting me to stick around after being regarded as a side goal in her life. Then followed desperation. Let's talk. Please, don't do this. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. And now, I am done. I stayed at my friend Kyle's place for a while, locked down a new flat, and went into full ghost mode. We changed our passwords. Cut her off from my credit card. Informed her parents that tuition is now their responsibility. It felt like erasing old files from a hard disk. Clean. Necessary. Satisfying. Freedom struck differently. No more devoting energy to a one-sided relationship. A month later, mutual acquaintances informed me that she was spiraling. I'm having trouble making my auto payments. Dropping courses? Couch surfing? Her parents advised her to grow up before returning home. I didn't feel anything. But what about 4 months? She showed up at my new location. I have no idea how she found the address. She appeared devastated. Skinny. Tired. All that confidence she used to flaunt? Gone. Please, she asked. I've changed. I miss you. I messed up. I just stared. Yeah. You did. Can we try again? I'll prove it to you. You're my priority now. Priority? I asked, twisting my head as if I were truly perplexed. What are you talking about, Melissa? You stopped being on my radar a long time ago. I don't even remember what it felt like to care. She broke down. Crying. Begging. She made bogus promises that she would be different and change. What about me? I felt as if the weight had already been removed. She was the only one still clinging on. You should go, I responded calmly. Almost bored. There's nothing for you here, not anymore. I closed the door. Her sobbing from the other side. Not my concern anymore. And damn, it felt great. Freeing. It was like removing a weight I had no idea I was carrying. Several weeks later, I met somebody new. A badass girl. A real one. Genuine. Thoughtful. Actually understands how to be a partner. She says I am a priority, and she means it. Demonstrates it. Every day. A game changer. Word got out. Melissa listened. She went crazy. I began showing up where I might be. Texting me from a random number after I blocked her previous one. Desperation looks ugly on everyone. I ignored it. I was finished with her games. Last I heard, she dropped out of school. I moved back home. What about her life? A mess. Mine. Better than ever. It's funny how it works. She believed I was replaceable. It turns out she was. And now, she'll have to live with that. People ask me if I regret it. If I ever feel tempted to reach out. Nah. Leaving was the best decision I've ever made. Because when someone shows you that they do not care, believe them, and then make absolutely sure they are no longer your concern. Am I the asshole for telling my best friend I don't want to hear about her shitty boyfriend anymore? Hi Reddit, I am feeling really bad about this, and need advice. I, 23, have been friends with my BFF Kayla since we were 11. She is awesome and has supported me through some really tough times, and I have been there for her through a lot of shit too. We have never fallen out, and we always supported each other. Until now. Kayla has been with her boyfriend James for just over 2 years now. I liked him at first. He was good for her. He made her happy, so I was happy. But for the last year or so, every time I have seen or chatted to Kayla, all she has done is complain about him. Some of the stuff she has told me about him is super gross, and I have lost all respect for him, and in turn, I have started losing respect for her. She has also changed a lot since being with him. She used to want to travel the world, explore and experience new things. Now she never leaves her house and wants to be a stay-at-home mother by the time she's 25. It makes me sad to see. She has lost her sparkle. It all came to a head when we went for dinner for my birthday. She spent the whole night complaining about James, as always, telling me way too much personal stuff about him, as always, and just generally moaning. It was after we had finished our meal when I finally snapped and said I don't want to hear any more about her shitty boyfriend, because everything I advise her to do she just ignores and I have nothing left to say to her. I told her she should dump him if she hates him so much, and if she isn't going to dump him then to quit bitching about him all the time because I didn't want to hear it anymore. I had had quite a few glasses of wine and was just feeling super bummed because she made my whole birthday dinner about her and her stupid boyfriend. This was 5 days ago and she hasn't spoken to me since. I messaged her the next morning apologizing and asked her if we could meet up to talk about it, but she hasn't responded. Relevant comments. To a longer YTA comment. OP, thank you for your comment. I do actually agree with you after reflecting. I haven't ever told her that I'm tired of her not taking my advice, and I have never asked her to not complain about him. This was the first time I had challenged her. I have always been very patient with her, and let her complain as much as she wants. This has left me feeling emotionally drained after every time I see her. I should have set boundaries in a calm and mature manner, when I was sober. I was just so annoyed that she made me an entire birthday meal about her relationship issues. I had also just found out that I had got my dream job, and wanted her to be happy for me. I took out my frustration on her and I spoke to her poorly. Thank you. I am going to try and fix it with her top commenter. I mean, you took the nuclear option and drunkenly exploded on her rather than having a civil conversation about how the constant complaining was impacting you and your friendship. Of course she's hurt and pissed off. Not to say she's free and clear of taking over your birthday, but she may honestly have no idea how much she complains or how draining it can be for others. The fact that you have lost respect for her means maybe it's time for the friendship to end. If you don't like her and you don't like being around her, what's the point of the relationship? Don't expect her to forgive you for handling the situation like you did instead of like a real friend would though. Alcohol ultimately didn't make you do this. OP, alcohol didn't make me do this. I did it because I didn't communicate sooner, and I had a lot of pent-up anger. I shouldn't have spoken to her like that and I'm going to apologize. Commenter, downvoted. You are the asshole. Get off booze and other drugs. OP. I accept I'm the asshole, but if I want to have a few glasses of wine on my birthday, that is my prerogative. I don't do drugs, and I am over the legal drinking age. I had 3 glasses of wine. On my birthday. Commenter, NTA. The best thing you can do is let her be right now. When she's ready to talk she will reach out to you. OP. I'm worried that if I let her be, she will never reach out and I will lose her as a friend. I don't want to lose her. Despite her frustrating me with constantly talking about her boyfriend, she is a good person. I was thinking of writing her a letter to apologize and explain how I feel. IDK. Commenter, a letter may be a good idea, especially if she has blocked you on social media or is avoiding your messages. Do you have any mutual friends willing to tell Kayla how you feel? OP? She hasn't blocked me, but she has already ignored one message so I feel like she would just keep ignoring me. All of our mutual friends have dropped her because they can't deal with her complaining. They're all telling me to unfriend her, but I'm not ready to do that. Commenter. Is the relationship just bad, or is it abusive? Not acting like her usual self, her spark is gone. Those are red flags. If it is an abusive relationship, and emotional abuse very much is abuse, then make sure to leave the door open for her to contact you when she's ready to leave. Abusers isolate and control their victims, and cutting off friends and family is part of the goal. If the support system is gone, it's harder to leave. So tell her that you will always be there for her if she decides to leave him. That does not mean you have to keep listening to her. Tell her that you are done hearing about this guy and set whatever boundaries you need, but tell her that when she is ready to leave him, you are there for her. OP, it isn't abusive. If anything, she's not very nice to him. She doesn't like the guy. I don't know why she stays with him. She struggles with her mental health, and he is a very lazy guy, so encourages her to stay in bed all day. He isn't what she needs, but he isn't abusive. Who paid for dinner? OP. I paid. It did need to be said, but not in the way it was. I want to apologize for the way I say it, not for how I feel. Commenter. So let me get this straight. Your best friend of 12 years goes to your birthday dinner empty-handed and you pay for it. She spends the whole night making it about herself and her stupid BF, and it got you to the point of yelling at her, rightfully so, and now she's giving you the cold shoulder. This girl is not your friend, she's a user. This is not a friendship worth having. IDC what financial situation is, if it's your BFF birthday, you make it work. It's not about money, it's about effort. If she truly couldn't afford to go out, then she could have made you dinner and a birthday cake and bought a $2 bottle of wine. OP, yeah, I guess that's true. I told her not to get me anything because she's broke. I wasn't expecting anything, but I was expecting her to at least ask me how I am, instead of just talking about her boyfriend. IDK Update 1. Edit. Thank you all for your comments. I can see you're all very divided about if I'm the asshole or not, and I get why. I have accepted that I am the asshole for going nuclear when drunk, and I know I should have spoken to her in a mature and calm manner way earlier than I did. She shouldn't have ruined my birthday dinner, but she is struggling. She didn't deserve to be spoken to like that. I have decided to write her a letter apologizing for the way I spoke to her. I am going to write, very nicely, that I still stand by what I said and that I love her, but hearing her complain repeatedly about the same issue without taking advice is very draining. I'm going to tell her I want to still be friends and that I don't want this to ruin our friendship. I will also recommend she goes back to therapy. She had a therapist in high school but ghosted her. If she then reads my letter and decides to end the friendship, then that is up to her. I will be sad, but everything happens for a reason. Right. Update 2. Firstly, thank you so much for everyone who commented and messaged me. Nice or not, it was great to get everyone's opinion. So I wrote Kayla a letter, like I said I was going to in my edit. It felt very formal and weird to do, but for some reason doing it over text felt wrong. I wanted her to know I'm sincere. I said that I love her, and I value our friendship extensively, and apologized for the way I spoke to her. I said alcohol wasn't to blame. I was. I spoke to her like an asshole and she didn't deserve it. I wrote that I have felt frustrated about the situation for a long time now, because it upset me seeing her so frustrated and upset all the time with the person who is supposed to cherish and respect her the most. I told her that I wholeheartedly believe that she should end the relationship. I said I knew this wasn't my place to say, and that she didn't need to take my advice and that I would support her in whatever decision she made. But if she decided to stay with him, I need her to stop complaining to me about James and their relationship because it was too draining for me to hear it. I said of course she could talk to me about anything major, but hearing the same complaints on an almost daily basis was exhausting, especially when she wouldn't take or even listen to any advice. I made sure to tell her I loved her and I apologized again. I actually apologized 4 times in the letter. I put it through her front door the day after I posted here. She called me yesterday and asked to meet. I went round to her place last night and we talked for just over 2 hours. She told me she actually broke up with James the day after my birthday. Apparently me snapping at her about it shocked her into realizing how often she was upset by him and how much she complained. She has spent the last few days processing everything, so that's why I hadn't heard from her, which is so valid. She actually thanked me for doing it, which is crazy. She said although I was a bit of an asshole, it was what she needed to hear. We both cried a lot and hugged it out and then watched 90 Day Fiancé LOL. I think it's safe to say we will be okay. She is obviously struggling because she is grieving their relationship and breakups are awful. But I will support her through this, like I always do, because I know that she will support me when I next get my heart broken. I am single AF right now, but who knows what the future holds. So the TLDR is that me snapping at my best friend at my birthday dinner for complaining about her boyfriend for the whole meal caused her to dump him. I didn't lose the friendship, I actually got my best friend back. I can't wait to support her while she finds herself again. Thank you all again, have a great day everyone. I found out I was pregnant with my 4th child not long after divorcing my husband. I'm conflicted about whether I should keep this baby. This is long. I'm sorry, I've sort of written a novel here. I wanted to post this in a relationship advice group, but the subject matter isn't allowed. My ex-husband and I were married for 10 years, although the last 2 were spent in variations of separation. We've been divorced for roughly a year. We have 3 kids, 10, 8, 5, I'm pregnant with our fourth baby. I don't know if we'll actually be parents to 4 kids or not. I'm so conflicted. We are so conflicted. There was no abuse or cheating in our marriage, although he did sleep with somebody else during our separation. There are a variety of other reasons why we ultimately got divorced. After the initial feelings of failure and heartache, and there was an immense amount of heartache on my end despite being the one who filed for divorce, we were able to get along pretty well. It becomes platonic so quickly, and it's like when we remove the romantic and married relationship from the equation, things got so much better. We split time with our kids 50-50ths. That's really hard for me because being a mom is such a huge part of my identity that I still sometimes struggle to know what to do with myself during his time with the kids. Ultimately, I'm happy that he's a loving, involved father, and I'm glad that they do spend half their time with him, even if I still sometimes cry over not being with them all the time. We still do things together as a family sometimes. We sit together at our kids' activities, things like that. He has a girlfriend now. She seems nice. He met her not long after our divorce was finalized. It hurt. I cried way too much over it. He waited over 6 months to introduce her to our kids, which I was thankful for. My kids like her. Our youngest child was unexpectedly admitted to the hospital not long ago. He had surgery. In the grand scheme of things, it was a pretty minor surgery and he's absolutely fine now, but this is my baby and he had to spend multiple nights in the hospital, so this was a big deal for me. My ex-husband was there the entire time, being a great dad, being a supportive partner to me as I worried over every little thing. We spent all those nights in the hospital together and I remembered why I married him. He was always able to be the strong, level-headed rock for me. He was this safe person who I knew would take care of everything and protect me. When we were in the hospital, he told me that I'm the most important woman in his life. When our son was discharged, my ex-husband came back to my house. My baby was home safe. Our other 2 children were excited to be home after staying with my husband's sister for several nights. We were all together at home like a family again. That night after our kids were in bed, we had sex. I hadn't been hoping for it or planning it. It was just like as soon as the kids were tucked away in their rooms, we were having this intensely passionate, needy, amazing sex that we shouldn't have been having. We went to sleep in my bed and at some point in the middle of the night we had sex again. The next morning we both decided our emotions with the whole situation with our son just got the better of us. We said we didn't regret sleeping together, but that's all it was, and we were just going to go back to our normal divorce lives. We wouldn't make it awkward, just move on. Then I found out I was pregnant. We didn't use a condom. I don't even have condoms in my house anymore. I'm not on birth control. I haven't been since we divorced. I haven't needed it since I haven't had the time or interest to start dating again. I really wanted to be single for a while. I know I was ovulating when we slept together, which was probably a contributing subconscious factor as to why it happened. My body sees him being a good dad to our kids and it wants another. My cycle is like clockwork and we've always conceived on the first try every time we've tried to get pregnant. Our first kid was not even a try. It was 2 weeks before your wedding you find out you're pregnant and spend your honeymoon with morning sickness surprise. So now I'm about 8 weeks pregnant. I've known for about a week. I just told him this past weekend. I didn't know if I would tell him at all. I realize now that I only told him in hopes that he'd tell me what to do and figure the situation out for me. Only he didn't. I know it makes no sense to have a baby with somebody I chose to divorce. I don't need a 4th child. Why can't I let go of this though? Update 1. I posted about a week ago. My ex-husband and I have been divorced for about a year. We have 3 kids, ranging from 10, 5 years old. We have gotten along great since the divorce, better than when we were married. It's almost like we're friends, can do things with our kids, and enjoy being around each other. About 2 months ago, our youngest unexpectedly ended up having surgery and spending several nights in the hospital. He's fine now. My ex-husband and I stayed together with our son the entire time he was in the hospital. When he was discharged, my ex-husband came back to my house, or former family home, at our son's request. He was just supposed to spend a few hours there. Help our son get settled, then go home. However, I guess all of the emotions and being together as a family in our former shared home got the better of us and we ended up having sex twice that night. Now I'm 9 weeks pregnant. I wasn't on birth control, was on it until after our divorce was finalized, but have been intentionally remaining single for a while and not involved with men in any way, so was giving my body a break from birth control. Initially we were undecided about what to do, but as of last weekend we made the decision together to have the baby. It feels sort of crazy to me. Definitely not a situation I ever imagined I'd find myself in. I already picture this baby looking just like our other kids. I guess that's why I struggled with the idea of not continuing with the pregnancy, which I know isn't really a valid reason to have a baby. This is probably the last baby I'll ever have. I'm 39, so even if I were to meet a man who I trusted enough to want to have a child with and a future with, I'll be well into my 40s by then. I plan to be very picky, but I'm not even at the point of wanting to find somebody new yet. We're not getting back together, for now. We get along great when we're not married and living in the same house. We feel it'd be irresponsible to all of our children to attempt to get back together right now because of this. Chances are higher that we'll be able to co-parent this baby successfully if we live separately. However, we are committed to working together to do what has to be done to take care of the baby when he or she gets here. Our kids are doing so great right now and they seem very happy and secure with the current setup of our lives and homes, so we want to stick with this for now. I don't know if I really understand what I'm getting myself into. Our other kids were all born into a marriage and a two-parent home. I know that sharing custody of a baby will be a lot different than the kids going back and forth between homes. I might be feeling too positive about it, but I think it could work out fine. The new baby will just see this as normal, right? Next thing to worry about will be having to explain this to everyone when we tell them. My family and friends will get over it, but I'm especially concerned with explaining it to our kids. I'm worried our oldest won't take the news well. She also knows what sex is and how babies are made. And for everyone concerned about his girlfriend, she's not his girlfriend anymore. Top-rated comment: these two are 100% getting back together within a year and then breaking up again in another. Update 2. Several people have asked me for an update on my situation. My ex-husband and I are having a baby. My other posts are on my profile. A recap is that we were married for 10 years, divorced for almost 1.5 years now, and have 3 kids together. We slept together twice during a stressful family time and I ended up pregnant. We've since admitted we are both still in love with each other, but have not actually declared that we're back together, mainly for the same of our kids. I last posted toward the end of January. I'm 28 weeks pregnant. We're having a little girl. As far as the pregnancy goes, it's been like a textbook pregnancy, and so I feel pretty good, just more tired than I ever remember being during pregnancy before. My husband and I continue to live separately and share custody of our kids. We each have them 50% of the time. They're all aware that we're having a baby and none of them seem to be deeply confused or emotionally damaged by their divorced parents having a baby together. We explained it in an age-appropriate way. Our oldest child was more grossed out that her parents had sex than anything else, since she now understands what sex is and how babies are made. We've been involved with her quite a bit and she's excited now. I even took her to one of my appointments. She's excited to have a baby sister and she understands that mom and dad love her and her siblings, that we love this new baby, and that we love each other as people and as parenting partners without actually being together as a married couple in one house. Meanwhile, my husband and I have started to attend couples counseling. We tried marriage counseling when we were separated before we divorced, but I think we were both already pretty mentally done, so counseling didn't do much for us then. I think we're getting way more out of it now because we're actually invested in it and putting in a lot of effort. Sometimes I feel great after a session, and at other times I feel not so great and am reminded of reasons why we divorced. Overall, I think it's a good thing for us no matter what happens with our relationship. We've been sleeping together for the last few months. We already agreed that we won't be seeing other people at this time. I wouldn't be saying this while pregnant anyway, and it's not as if I'll even have time with 3 kids and a newborn. We agreed that we will not open ourselves to being with other people while we are working on our relationship and before that conversation is had between us. We are carrying on just as we have been since our divorce, as far as our kids are concerned. Dad doesn't spend the night at our house. We do things together as a family sometimes, but we were doing that even before anything was rekindled between us. We're not acting as a couple when we're together as a family. We're friendly with each other, but there is no holding hands, kissing, etc. Our main concern is our kids. We refuse to say we're back together. If we officially get back together, we really want to feel certain that it'd be for the long term, that we're ready to commit to that. We don't want to give our kids whiplash or do anything to make them insecure about our family. We would like to get to that point, but we aren't there yet. I think if my husband had his way, we'd be there. He's ready to say he's there now. He'd love to move back home. But he understands and agrees with my reasoning. I'd love for him to move back home too, based only on emotions. We both have things to work on, separately and together. I want to be a better spouse this time around. I thought I was being a really great wife and I was on the surface. I also know that right now I feel so in love and am hopped on hormones and pregnancy happiness. I always feel super happy, Super positive and super horny during pregnancy, and I know I have to be careful with trusting anything I feel during this time because it's like I'm on a 24/7 natural high. I think the biggest issue right now is that he's far more, let's throw caution to the wind, even though he agrees with all of my reasoning, and I want to be way more careful. Final update. I've made a few posts about my husband getting pregnant after we divorced. We were married for 10 years and had 3 kids before getting divorced. We got along so much better after we divorced and we have been really good co-parents during this time, but we were functioning strictly as friendly co-parents. We slept together around 1 year after our divorce was finalized and conceived a 4th baby, which we ultimately decided to keep. Our 4th child, a sweet baby girl, was born at the end of May. She's so perfect and we both feel we made the right choice to bring her into the world. It was the smoothest, easiest birth I've had and I take that as a sign. I feel like I fell in love with him all over again during labor and delivery, and that's when I knew I was ready to make our relationship official and public to everyone, including our children. Contrary to all the assumptions, our kids really don't seem to be negatively affected or confused about the baby, and I don't think the newest baby is getting any less love or attention than our 3 kids born within our marriage have. This is normal to them now. They understand we're still a family, and no matter what we'll always be a family whether mom and dad live together. We are still living separately and technically still maintaining the custody schedule we had in place for our oldest 3 kids. Although, the kids are with me every weekday right now since it's summer break and I'm on maternity leave. We have a different arrangement for the baby, but he does take her overnight a few nights a week. I got our family home in the divorce and he spends time here with all of us. He has spent some nights here at home to help with the baby, but he doesn't stay in my bedroom quite yet. He has not moved in, although he has tried and continues to suggest it. This is probably the biggest point of contention these days. To me, this feels like the best of both worlds. I love him and truly don't want to be with anyone else. I think I sort of function better and am happier also living in my own space that he just visits. I know it's not the norm and some might say this means I don't really love him as much as I think. I really believe I'm just one of those people who needs more independence and alone time, and maybe we never would have got divorced in the first place if this had been the arrangement from the beginning. Is it sort of selfish? Maybe. I don't know anyone else with this arrangement, but I know some people out there do this. For all intents and purposes, we are together in a relationship again. We've made it official and exclusive, as juvenile as that sounds. We had already made it official between ourselves, but we hadn't really announced it to family and friends or our kids. We are still in love with each other or back in love with each other and we are not seeing anyone else. Our kids have adjusted well. They've been seeing a therapist since we filed for divorce, so that has really helped us navigate some of this. Prior to the baby's birth we did not tell them that we were essentially in a relationship. Only so long you can keep that a secret from your kids. Even though they're young, they're perceptive. So we've recently explained to them that mommy and daddy love each other but we get along better living in separate homes and for now we think this is the best thing for our family. The only problem is that now they keep asking about when we will all live together again. I'm sure it's a little confusing to them, but I'm not sure how we could be handling it any better. We attempted marriage counseling when we separated, before divorce. It was not successful. I don't think either of us was 100% committed to it at the time. He really did not take it seriously back then, but I was more stubborn and resistant than I originally realized. We're in couples therapy now and it's like night and day compared to last time. I'm scared to live together again, so we aren't going to do that anytime soon. It's not that I don't trust him. I don't trust us as a couple. I refuse to put my kids through all of that again. So, getting remarried and moving in together isn't something in the plans right now. Maybe one day. I hope we can get to that point. I just don't want my kids to have to go through a divorce and splitting households yet again. I feel like they'd lose all trust in us then. OP on their living situation. I think it might be best for us to find a way to each have our own place next to each other or on the same property, instead of one actual house that we share. Other than not living together, we are together. It's no different than any other couple that's dating but doesn't live together. Well, it's a little different since we share kids and we were once married and I still usually refer to him as my husband, but not too different. We aren't keeping our relationship a secret anymore, so we aren't pretending to not be together. Everyone knows now. We spend a lot of time together. But yeah, he may eventually want more than I do, as in a relationship where we live together 24/7. At this point, the hubby's ex-GF was firmly in the rearview mirror and OP was still brushing it off as if it is no biggie, but I found one exchange that people may find interesting. OP, downvoted. Yes, he had a girlfriend at the time, It's in my post history and I'm not trying to hide it, but we have moved well beyond that now. Response. People are downvoting her comment because it is pretty black and white when it comes to cheating. Cheating hurts others and a lot of people value living in a world and having actions that don't result in hurting others. He was in a relationship and committed to his girlfriend when he decided that he had the right to sleep with his ex and not immediately tell her that he did it. She deserved better than to get trauma from someone who claimed to be committed to her, but was willing to step out on her. Cheating on someone does result in emotional trauma, which will affect how they will view love and relationships going forward. Personally, if he wasn't ready to be in a relationship with her, then he should have left her alone. I am tired of men in particular getting into relationships with women when they know they are not clearly over their ex-partner. It is a sign of selfishness and pure disregard of another human being's health. She was used as an emotional support and sex object by him, because no one that respects their partner would do something this cruel. So I'm not going to cheer on someone who could have just avoided this entire situation by not being in a relationship when he was clearly not ready to be in one, and hurt someone deeply. Edit. I want to add additional thought as well. Cheating is not only an emotional hurt but a sign that you give zero care about your partner's health. He was presumably still having sex with his ex-girlfriend after sleeping with no condoms with his ex-wife. With the rate of sexually transmitted diseases and infections increasing and the likelihood of the disease being antibiotic resistant, he told his ex that he had zero care for health and emotional well-being. She had the basic right to know that he slept with another person while still being intimate with her, especially with no form of protection. Not calling the ex-wife dirty but with the risk of catching a disease that's incurable, or opens you up to higher risk of illness. Every person who is engaging in a sexual relationship deserves honesty. OP. All of this may be true. I'm not arguing anything you said. But I'd like to know what everyone on Reddit thinks we're supposed to do about it. We can't go back in time and undo what we did. Maybe Redditors feel that as an act of penance we should not be together, despite very much wanting to, since that's what we deserve for hurting her in the process. We should never be allowed to move on and have any happiness in our lives, together or separate, because we did something at one time that hurt somebody. Short of publicly flogging ourselves and maybe not allowing ourselves to ever be in a relationship with anyone ever again as a form of self-punishment, what are we supposed to do to satisfy the masses? Neither of us are proud of hurting somebody. My stepsister stole my fiancé and taunted me with postcards. Now they're broke and begging for a job at our family business. I, 28F, was engaged to my college boyfriend about 4 years ago. We had been together throughout college and got engaged at 23. A week before our wedding, he ran off with my stepsister. My ex-fiancé Greg, 28M, and my stepsister Melissa, 28F, eloped just before our big day, leaving only a letter behind. In the letter, Greg admitted to starting an affair with Melissa a few months after our engagement. He said he realized he couldn't marry me because it would be unfair to all of us, as he and Melissa were the ones truly in love. He believed the universe used me to bring him to his true love, and marrying me would deny us all a happy future. And that was it. They left, and I didn't see them again until recently. Greg's parents were so embarrassed by his actions that they covered all the wedding costs, so I didn't have to pay anything. That was the last time I interacted with his family. My own family was beyond embarrassed. They were furious. My father even considered hiring a private detective to track them down and bring them back for answers. Just to let you know, my father is actually my stepdad, but he has been my father ever since I was very young, and I have always called him dad because he is the only father I've ever known. My biological dad left shortly after I was born, and my mom never saw him again since he gave up his parental rights, and they were never married. My mom married my dad when I was 8. Melissa and I went to the same school, which is how our parents met. For some reason, Melissa took a dislike to me and treated me terribly for years. She was a true bully, constantly picking on me at school with her friends. The torment didn't stop at home. She would find ways to make me feel bad there too. Despite my complaints, our parents' attempts to discipline her weren't effective and she wasn't afraid of them, so she continued her bullying. My school years were a nightmare because of her and her friends. Much like my dad was absent, Melissa's mom wasn't around either, as she had passed away a few years after Melissa was born. Her mother died in the middle of the night from an epileptic episode, so whenever my mom tried to discipline her, Melissa would retort that she had no right because she wasn't her real mom. My father attempted to stop her bullying, but it was futile as she was fearless. They tried everything from scolding to gentle talks, but nothing curbed her behavior. Occasionally, they threatened to send her away, but she would boldly challenge them, knowing they were empty threats. In middle school, she was already troublesome, but by high school, her behavior worsened significantly. She picked up bad habits, becoming almost a juvenile delinquent. She started smoking and sneaking out to drink with her equally problematic friends. The turning point came when she was arrested with her friends one night for breaking into a house while drunk. This incident finally pushed our parents to take action. After weeks of pleading and protesting, they managed to send her to a rehabilitation center for troubled teens. Though she was unhappy, my father was adamant, insisting that if she wanted to stay with us and be part of the family, she had to improve. He couldn't allow her behavior to continue and disrupt everyone else as she was becoming a menace to society. Melissa left during our sophomore year and didn't return until after we had graduated. She enrolled in a school near the rehab center and stayed with her aunt. I didn't see her during those years because I had no interest in how my biggest bully was doing. My parents visited her every weekend and always asked if I wanted to join, but I always said no. Her friends ignored me after she left, which greatly improved my high school experience as I no longer had anyone constantly bullying me. Melissa continued her education in rehab and, when she returned, the first thing she did was apologize for everything she had put me through. She seemed much calmer, and I thought she had genuinely changed, so I forgave her. We were both heading off to college in a few months anyway, so it didn't seem to matter much. Once college started, we both moved out and only came back home for the holidays. During those times, she was much nicer to me. Not in the sense of being friendly, but she simply ignored me instead of constantly picking on me as she used to. I had no reason to suspect anything even after getting engaged. They both acted as if nothing was happening. I never thought Greg might have feelings for Melissa. It never crossed my mind because Greg convincingly acted like he was in love with me, all while cheating on me with Melissa. She also pretended to be my friend, so I didn't find out the truth until it was too late and they had already left. My parents wanted to track them down and bring them back, but I convinced them to let it go because I just wanted to forget everything. It was already devastating that Greg and Melissa made a fool of me by running off a week before my wedding. I couldn't handle any more drama. I was deeply depressed and emotionally drained. For weeks, I buried myself in work and sleep to avoid confronting my heartbreak. My heart was shattered and I felt numb, but worse was yet to come. A couple of weeks after the day that should have been my wedding, I received a postcard from Melissa. She was in California, and included a bunch of photos of her and Greg looking incredibly happy. It was clear she was rubbing it in my face. She mentioned being sorry about the surprise before my wedding, but it was obvious she wasn't truly sorry. She just wanted to hurt me. That's when I realized she had never forgiven me for what happened years ago and blamed me for being sent away. She never wanted to be my friend. She used me to get to Greg. I had trusted her and ended up being a stepping stone in her malicious plan. I have to admit, for days after receiving that postcard, I couldn't sleep because I was losing my mind over it. It was a traumatic experience, and I needed months of therapy to heal and address my trust issues. The postcard wasn't a one-time thing. She sent me pictures of her and Greg for months. It only stopped after about a year because I never responded or engaged with her drama. Our parents were furious and cut all ties with her after the first postcard. They never reached out to her again, which was a significant loss for Melissa because she was poised to inherit her dad's business. She was a business major, partly because she wanted to join our father's company. However, after her betrayal, our father severed all ties with her and offered me the opportunity to work with him instead, feeling he needed to make amends in a significant way. Unlike her, I had a degree in history, which had nothing to do with business. Therefore, I needed to learn the ropes from scratch. My father assured me this wasn't an issue and was eager to teach me everything he knew so I could eventually take over the business. I agreed and started working under him to learn how to run the business, allowing him to retire and hand over the reins to me. After a few years of hard work, I was promoted last year, and my father retired. It was a fantastic feeling, having started from the bottom and learned everything I needed to know. Now, the business runs smoothly under my management, and my parents can enjoy their time together without worrying about it, thanks to my efforts. For a long time, I immersed myself in my work, which helped me move on from Greg. The combination of work and therapy allowed me to heal, and I no longer think about Greg or what he did. I never expected to hear from them again, let alone have them ask for my help. It would take a lot of nerve and a serious lack of common sense to ask for my help after betraying me, humiliating me and flaunting it. Yet Melissa and Greg must indeed lack sense, because that's exactly what they did a few days ago. It was the weekend, and around lunchtime, my doorbell rang frantically. Thinking it was the pizza I ordered, I didn't think much of it. To my shock, when I opened the door, instead of the delivery guy, there stood Melissa, looking extremely worried. Speechless, I waited for her to speak. It was clear she was there to ask for help. She looked destitute and her appearance betrayed her situation. Melissa, always impeccably dressed, now wore old faded clothes that looked long out of date. Her jeans were too short, and she appeared malnourished. I had already decided that whatever she asked, my answer would be no. She explained that she and Greg had been struggling ever since he lost his job a few months ago. Instead of job hunting, he had taken to drinking. Although she had been trying to find a job, her efforts were unsuccessful because she had left the workforce to handle household chores when she moved away with Greg. This gap in her resume made her a less attractive candidate for the job she applied for. She had heard from relatives that our father had retired and handed the business over to me, so she came to ask if I would hire Greg. Melissa admitted she hadn't approached our parents yet and came straight to me because she believed I had a kind heart and felt immense guilt over her past betrayal, confident I wouldn't turn her away. Now that she needed my help, her entitlement was so absurd that I laughed in her face and told her to apply elsewhere because I don't hire cheaters. Then I shut the door on her and walked back to the living room, ready to call the cops if she didn't leave soon. Fortunately, she left that day, but she hasn't stopped bothering me. After her visit, I called our parents to tell them about it. They said they'd heard from neighbors that Melissa was back in town without Greg but hadn't mentioned it. In our small town, news travels fast, so we quickly found out that Melissa had been in town for about a week, staying with an old high school friend. It was likely this friend who told her where I lived and that I had inherited the business she thought should have been hers. She was now really playing that card. A few days after visiting me, she went to our parents to complain about how heartless I was. She expected them to side with her, thinking she had the upper hand by playing the victim, but she was wrong. My father told her that the business was mine to run and I could make my own decisions. He wasn't going to interfere. My mother reminded her that she had betrayed me by running away with my fiancé after pretending to be my friend for years, so she deserved whatever was happening to her. Melissa had lost the right to ask any of us for help, especially after sending me postcards to torment me. She tried to defend herself, saying it was all in the past and she was a different person now, but my parents told her to leave, wanting nothing to do with her anymore. She threw a tantrum, accusing them of always favoring me and treating me like the golden child while ignoring her. My father responded that he had made more allowances for her behavior than any other parent would, but she insisted it still didn't matter. I had everything she was supposed to have, including the business I was flaunting. She claimed it wasn't her fault that Greg fell for her and chose her over me, yet she felt she was being punished for it. She said the postcards she sent were sincere apologies, not attempts to torment me. Honestly, I haven't stopped thinking about her words since my father told me. It's true she was supposed to inherit the business and be in my position, but she lost that because of her own actions, not mine. I never asked my father to cut her out and give me the business, he did that on his own. It seems unfair for her to blame me. She also accused me of being the golden child, which isn't true, but I can see why she thinks that. She believes she was sent away because I complained about her bullying. It's a big deal for a parent to decide to send their child away, and I know it was hard on my father. But again, that's not my fault. If he hadn't intervened, Melissa might have ended up in even more trouble because of the path she was on. I also doubt her claim about the postcards being genuine apologies. She was probably just trying to cover up her intentions. I feel sorry for her because her husband turned out to be completely useless, and now she has to bail him out. She even came to me for help, which must have been incredibly hard for her. I regret how I treated her before. I have everything now, and she has nothing, so I can't help but pity her. That's just who I am. Besides, it's been a long time, and I'm tired of holding on to this grudge. But I also don't want to help her. I can offer my sympathy, but I don't want to hire them or give them money. I think it's enough that I even feel bad for her after everything she put me through, which most people wouldn't do. The only reason I feel bad for her now is that this business was supposed to be hers. Now that I'm in a position of power, I'm finally getting back at her. And it feels wrong. Maybe it's because of what she said about me being the golden child, or maybe it's just imposter syndrome, but I feel weird about this. So am I the for refusing to hire my ex-fiancé, who eloped with my stepsister, now that they're struggling with money and need help? Update. I was at a loss and the comments here only made things more confusing. Some of you thought I was right to turn them away, while others claimed I was always the favored child, causing Melissa to act out. This wasn't as helpful as I hoped. I decided to talk to my parents, as I've always sought their advice when facing problems. They assured me I had no reason to feel sorry for Melissa. They said everyone had gone above and beyond to help her become a better person, but if she wasn't willing to change, there was little we could do. My father mentioned he had intended to let her take over the business if she had behaved and been a good daughter, but she failed and embarrassed the family. Given that, she couldn't expect to take over or even be part of the family anymore. Talking to my parents made me feel much better. So, I'll try not to feel guilty about things I haven't done anymore. Update. About a week had passed since Melissa had shown up at my door and visited my parents. We hadn't heard from her, and I almost thought she had gone back to Greg until today when she appeared at my workplace and caused a scene. It was terrible because she just walked in, knowing the place well from childhood, and easily bypassed security. She stood in front of my office, shouting that I had stolen the business from her by pretending to be a perfect daughter to our parents and constantly sucking up to them to gain their approval. She accused me of falsely claiming she had bullied me throughout our childhood and convincing our father to send her to rehab just to solidify my position as the favored child. She declared that the business was supposed to be hers, but I was refusing to let her be a part of it because I was jealous Greg had chosen her over me, unlike our parents who had always favored me. She said I had lost my mind from being overlooked and had turned our parents against her. When I heard the commotion, I called security and went to see what was happening. I tried to tell her to shut up, but she continued for a few more minutes until security finally threw her out of the building. I called my dad before contacting the police to get his opinion, and he was furious. He told me to go ahead and call the cops. Luckily, when the police arrived, she was still lurking nearby, likely waiting for me to leave so she could confront me again or maybe even physically attack me. The police took her away and charged her with trespassing and disturbing the peace. They are minor charges, and she might get off with a fine or community service at worst, but it will go on her record, which is never good. I informed my dad about the charges and arrest, expecting him to be upset, but he just seemed exasperated and said he was tired of dealing with her craziness. I feel bad for him because it must be hard having a daughter like Melissa and being blamed for everything that goes wrong in her life, even though it's usually her own fault. Honestly, we have all been really patient. Update. So I think Melissa has gone back to California because we haven't heard from her in a few days, which is unusual since we expected her to lash out after her arrest. My dad asked around and found out that some people saw her heading towards the airport recently, so it seems she's left. Honestly, it's a huge relief that she's gone because I was really worried she might do something drastic to get our attention, which is never good. I have no idea what she plans to do about the situation with Greg now, as it seems unlikely she'll get help from anyone after this. I just hope she finds something to do and gets out of this mess, not out of kindness or compassion, but because if she doesn't, she'll just come back here with Greg and bother us again, and I don't want that. So I genuinely hope and pray that either she or Greg finds a job and can support themselves. For now at least, I won't have to hear from her for a couple of weeks, and I believe this nightmare is finally over. When a girl in the gym asked for help while recording, I refused, sparking an unexpected turn of events. Was I wrong? I think I acted rudely with a girl in the gym and wanted to get opinions on if I was the AH in this situation. I, 41M, go to the gym early in the morning around 5:30 a.m. There are generally very few people that come to the gym at that time. There is a girl, early 20s, that also comes to the gym at the same time. We always say hello to each other and have small talk between our sets. She comes in early because the gym is empty, and she likes to record herself working out as she wants to be a fitness influencer or something. She seems dedicated and we have known each other for at least a year. This morning, as I was working out, she came to me and asked for help. She was very excited and told me that she wanted to go for a PR on barbell squat. She asked me if I could spot her as she was not confident if she would be able to do it. I said okay, as this is not the most uncommon thing. For people who are unfamiliar, this is an exercise where you carry a barbell with weights on your back and perform a squat. The spotter has to stand behind the person and support the person in case they fail to get up. As she was getting ready, I saw her phone in the corner and asked her if I could be off camera or if she can stop recording. She said she really wanted to record herself doing it and I will look good on camera. I told her that I really do not want to be on camera as my wife or co-workers may watch the video if she posts it online and may not look good for me. Another reason that I did not tell her was that she was wearing a very revealing outfit, small sports bra and tight shorts, and I really did not feel comfortable being recorded standing behind her. She promised me that she will record it for herself and not post the video. However, I just did not want to be recorded. I told her that I really feel uncomfortable. And if she waits for 30 minutes, one of the trainers may be able to help her. She became really upset and asked me why I'm making the situation weird. She accused me of sexualizing her. She asked me if she was a man, would I have done it? I felt she had a point as I have done it for other people. I told her that I would be okay doing it, but I just don't want to be recorded doing it. She again went on a rant about me body shaming her and me being uncomfortable with her perfectly fine outfit. I felt bad that I upset her as she was just trying to work out. I have also asked people to spot me in past, and people always helped. However, I just did not want to be recorded. Am I the AH to refuse to spot her because she was recording it? I don't want her to feel that it was because of her clothes, or because she is a girl. However, as a married man, I need to observe some boundaries and really don't want to be recorded in that way with a girl half my age. I am also worried that she recorded our whole conversation and may post it online. I do not know what I should do in this situation and am a bit worried. Relevant comments. Commenter, NTA. People who are pointing out the line of how you think it would look inappropriate if a coworker or wife saw you aren't familiar with lifting. If she reached failure, it would absolutely look bad on you, because people don't understand what spotting and having to assist with squats looks like. OP, that was exactly what went through my mind. Plus, who knows what commentary someone can put on top of those videos to make it go viral. Update. I had posted on a different forum 3 weeks ago about me refusing to help a girl in the gym for spotting her barbell squat because she was recording us. I did not think it would blow up so much that my wife got this story on her TikTok. What happened after was pretty unexpected and my life is a bit absurd right now. I was worried that she would post our conversation about me refusing her help online and show me as the bad guy. I told my wife about the conversation, and she said that she has seen posts where young girls do add nasty voiceovers and make men my age look like creeps for views. My wife told me that I should just complain to the gym management about her for recording me without my consent, just to get ahead of things. When I went to the gym next week, I saw her again. I tried to keep my distance, but she kept on smiling at me. As I finished my sets, she came to me and asked me if we could talk. She wanted to apologize for her behavior from the previous day and how it was wrong of her to assume that I would be okay with her recording me. It was a pleasant surprise, as I was not expecting that. I told her that it was okay, and I just don't like to be recorded in general. She followed me outside and continued the conversation. She asked me how long I have been working out and I could advise her on her form. I told her that there are some really good personal trainers in the gym I could recommend to her, but she told me that she is unemployed and cannot afford them. She told me she will buy me a coffee if I can give her some pointers. At this point, I felt I was just being rude and told her sure, and we went to a nearby coffee shop. Her name is Haley. She graduated last year, moved back to her mom's house and is looking for a job. She was very chubby last year and wants to look like the TikTok fitness models and is trying hard to get in shape. We had a nice conversation, and I was able to help her with some of her questions. She already knew my name and asked me if my wife would be okay if she follows me on Instagram. I told her that the main purpose of that account is for my wife to spy on my friends' lives, so I generally don't use it. She asked me if I use Snapchat, and I had to remind her that I am twice her age. This is where it got crazy. When I came home, I told my wife about what happened. My wife loves her Reels and TikTok and wanted to see if she ever posted the video from the previous week. I only knew that her first name was Haley and how she looked and told my wife about it. When I came back from work in the evening, my wife was already home and sitting on the sofa. She was grinning ear to ear and told me to immediately sit next to her. Apparently, this girl had been posing about me and calling me her gym crush for the last 2 months. My face is blurred out in all the videos. A lot of videos were of her sitting in her car every morning and making up completely fictional romantic stories about our interactions. Each video had like 100 plus likes, which my wife says is not a lot, but feels like a lot. She had posted some videos of us just passing each other and smiling, or our conversation where I was telling her to stop recording, with a voiceover about how I approached her in the gym and complimented her body. There was a video from that morning about her coming to me while I was packing up, with her saying how I asked her out for a coffee. She is just making up fictional romantic bullshit for getting likes, and people were commenting and cheering for her. There were also other videos of her working out and posing in the gym locker room. My wife was laughing uncontrollably about how big of a sucker I am and how I'm internet famous now. I told her this needs to stop, but my wife insisted that she is too invested in the drama now and wants to see what happens next. She said that this girl is really young, and just trying to establish herself and get more followers. Plus, she has not done anything inappropriate and is not showing my face in the videos. My wife just wants me to play along and see what crazy Haley does next. So for the last 2 weeks, I have been going to the gym, talking to her every day, and my wife keeps me updated on what story she came up with for the day. We go for a coffee every Wednesday and I am mentoring her about nutrition and what she should focus on, to the best of my abilities. It's all a game for my wife, and I do want Haley to succeed as long as she does not cross a line. However, the whole thing feels really crazy, and I'm too old to deal with this shit. I am not sure how long I can keep up with the act. Her behavior seems innocent, but also, I'm getting a bit uncomfortable with the whole thing now. Relevant comments. Did the girl know OOP is married? OP. Yes. She knows I'm married. I wear my ring in the gym, and also I talk about my wife all the time to her. I also feel it's a bit weird for a 22-year-old person to make up stories. My wife feels she is just using me as an NPC in her fiction to gain more viewers and create drama. We discussed it, and she told me about how some girls just make up stories about bad first dates on TikTok as it gets them a lot of views. My wife feels it's weird, but I need to see the humor in this situation. At least it's entertaining, and she wants to know where her story goes next. What was all about in the coffee discussion? OP. What are the coffee discussions like? It seems weird for her to do that. If it is just for TikTok attention, it's easier for her to make stuff up. The coffee discussions are very fitness oriented, and she genuinely has legit questions. We do discuss stuff about our lives, mostly hers, and she shares her struggles in getting a job and life in general for a Gen Z person. However, she has never said anything inappropriate. I feel she must have had some footage of me passing her and smiling and greeting her and just used that in her edits. Am I the asshole for telling my friend, who is vegan and doesn't drink, that I'm tired of catering to her choices? My 50F friend Lauren, 46F, is a vegan who doesn't drink. That's awesome, and I have no issue with that. The problem is that she is part of a small group of friends who don't get out very often, but when we do, it always has to be limited due to Lauren's choices. We live in an area where our food choices suck to begin with, so having to go to eat where she can be satisfied is very limited. There really isn't much to do otherwise at night. In addition, she gets upset when any one of us eats something that has an obvious meat to it. For example, she doesn't say anything if we get a soup with chicken or something, but if we ordered a hamburger she would cause drama. Then she doesn't drink, which is no big deal, but she will then send us videos on the harmful effects of alcohol if we get a drink or two with dinner. It has gotten on my nerves to say the least. It's been a while now, so I am done with everyone catering to her needs. I have tried inviting everyone to specific places and invited Lauren as well. Then she puts into a group chat, "Hey ladies, since I can't eat at X, why don't we go to Y?" Then of course the other ones decide we should go to Y instead. I have backed off of going out because I don't want to spend money on food that sucks. Remember, it's vegan, not vegetarian, so it's very limiting. And is expensive, or have my intelligence questioned by sending shit about the effects of alcohol as if we are not beyond old enough to know or Google it. I barely drink anyway, but enjoy a glass or two every so often. She asked why I keep bailing, so I told her I respect your choices, but by the very nature of them they have limited mine. Being that I don't have the ability to go out often nor unlimited funds, I am only going to go when I know the entire experience will be what I want. So if I'm in the mood for a steak and a vodka tonic, I want to have them in a relaxed atmosphere, and that obviously bugs you. If I'm in the mood for a salad and water, I will gladly join you, or we can just hang out at the beach when we have time during the day. She didn't like that too much. She said that isn't what friendship is about, and I should enjoy the company enough not to care. I told her that I understood and I would gladly hang out with her when food or drink isn't in question because it's too expensive not to enjoy it. She said that there is nothing else to do around here. Then I asked if it's just about friends. Maybe she can eat first and join us out sometimes, and other times we can go to where she wants. She then told me that she's not going to sit around watching people eat meat. I said, okay, I get it, and you need to get that I'm not catering to your needs each time I'm free to hang out. I later got a text from a mutual friend that Lauren was upset, but she agreed with me because she was tired of the same shit. Of course this friend doesn't like conflict, so just listen to Lauren. So AITA for not wanting to continue to eat food I don't like, or refrain from having a drink or two to keep the peace here, or am I right in feeling like she's being selfish, expecting the rest of us to do what she's comfortable with each time? Relevant comments. Comment 1, NTA, but drop the friends that don't like conflict. Why surround yourself with spineless morons? OP, true. It was all getting on my nerves and why I was happy not going anymore. However, I sometimes wonder if I'm an asshole when others just easily bend to other people. I appreciate that. Comment 2, NTA, Lauren is an ass though. The condescending comments about meat and alcohol are beyond me. OP, the alcohol really pissed me off. It was such a self-righteous type of behavior to me. Comment 3, NTA. She's exactly right. That isn't what friendship is about, and so why can't she enjoy hanging out with her friends who are allowed to eat and drink whatever they want, while she eats and drinks what she wants? I'm sorry, there's probably not a great ending here, but the way she's framed the situation can easily be turned around back on her, so she's not right. Neither is she wrong. It just may be that you two are incompatible as friends. OP, yes, I'm feeling we are not a good fit. To be honest, I am working hard on setting boundaries, but sometimes I question if I'm not going overboard, especially when many other women my age seem to just go along with something. I felt like she was being extremely selfish but thought I could be missing something, and why I asked OP on if she had a problem with Lauren being a vegan and doesn't drink. OP, no. The problem is that I'm expected to become a vegan and not drink in her presence. I don't care what she does, but she cares what I do and the other women as well. OP on the food choices in the area. OP, nice try. I live in a small beach town. There is shitty food to begin with, so the options are extremely limited here. So I can't tell you how many salads I have been limited to eating while going out with her. There are no solely vegan restaurants and very few that have vegan options. She doesn't make it worthwhile to listen to negativity to get what you actually want, so that leaves fucking salad. So just because you misinterpret what I meant or assume the worst in people doesn't mean you're right. Fucking fame? Seriously. Damn. I thought my life was pretty lame just asking this question, and to think someone thinks I'd actually make this shit up. FFS. Update. Thank you so much to the countless people who commented on my post shown below. You made me realize that I wasn't an AH and shouldn't have put up with her BS. Many asked how I put up with it for so long. I don't have a good answer, but it was more about the group itself, where I didn't want to create drama. My experience with friends has been lucky, as most everyone has been loving, fun and selfless. We can also call each other out on BS by busting chops and laughing. This was my first group who met semi-regularly, and the others were very sweet to where I felt uncomfortable rocking the boat. Anyway, yesterday it was a bazillion degrees out here in Florida and I was playing tennis with Lauren and 2 others. We were dying. I don't normally play with her, but these women are all on my team I joined coming up in the fall, so we needed to start practicing. No, I did not join because of Lauren. LOL. I've played against the other 2 throughout the years and they have been asking for me to play for a long time now. I live in a small area, so it's common for circles to mix like this. One of the ladies had to stop due to dizziness, cramping and nausea. We all decided that we should only play much earlier in the summer. Except of course Lauren, who didn't want to wake up early because she said she didn't play well then. That's when I had it. With the power of thousands of random Reddit strangers in my head, I basically told her off. I told her I've never met someone so self-absorbed in my entire life, and it was disgusting that she would even think that way in front of a teammate who clearly had heat exhaustion, let alone have it come out of her mouth. I said all this while her ass was sitting down, while the other woman and I got a cold wet towel for this woman and got her to drink. Lauren stormed off. These other 2 thanked me. One was her usual partner, who is the sweetest person alive and said she has been wanting to tell her off for a year now. The other one, who was feeling like shit, said she is going to tell the captain that she needs to go because she is like a cancer on the team. I am very happy to say that I will not be dealing with her selfish BS any longer. She can go shove a carrot up her ass for all I care. LOL, thanks so much everyone. Tonight I'm going to have a giant hamburger and a cold beverage in your honor. Cheers. Relevant comments. OP not respecting Lauren's wishes and trying to make this whole thing about herself and not Lauren. OP, I did say something and suggested other things. She wasn't having it. I wasn't pouting. We are busy and have lives, so this isn't the end of the world, and I was quite happy with that choice. I kindly told her my feelings and she told me I wasn't being a good friend because it isn't about the food. So then why do we have to eat her shit every time then? I wasn't hurt over the videos. It was fucked up to cross others' boundaries like that, as she was some self-righteous queen of health. She's controlling, as thousands have pointed out. That should be clear with her not budging on playing in the mornings after her teammate got sick from the heat. I spoke with her already calmly and nicely. She never budged and only expected me to continue to bend to her needs, inferring I was not a good friend. I still ended that conversation in a respectful manner to then learn she goes to a mutual friend to bitch about me. It was after the above that I felt she was extremely selfish, but I still wasn't sure because she turned it around on me. That's why I came here to Reddit. I didn't go off on her about the food. I went off on her because there was a woman about to throw up due to extreme heat. While another woman and myself were trying to cool her down and make sure she was okay, Lauren made it again about her. She sat there bitching about not wanting to play earlier because she doesn't play well early in the morning. BTW, that is complete bullshit because the matches start early in the mornings and she's played in this league for many years. I'm sorry, but you must be extremely infuriating to anyone who needs your help and needs you to listen. You fill in gaps to stories that don't exist. You assume what people are feeling and why they have done certain things, and then come across in a very pompous manner that you are correct. Yes, you're absolutely correct to the shit you literally made up in your head. However, you are very far off from what happened with me, how I felt and why I acted the way I did. I have face blindness, and my BF's tests are overwhelming. How can I clearly communicate that this behavior is hurtful and unacceptable? Hi y'all, sorry for posting this. If it's not okay, I can delete it. I've been with my BF for almost a year now. I love him dearly, and he loves me too, I'm guessing. But there's one thing that's causing a lot of issues for us. I suffer from prosopagnosia, face blindness, which means it's really hard for me to recognize people's faces. I usually go by other characteristics to put a name to a person, like hairstyle, facial hair, marks, skin colors, accessories, etc., but it's still really tough. It's caused me severe anxiety and other mental health struggles. I'm lucky to have wonderful people around me though, who are aware and try to help. They'll introduce themselves when we start talking, wear something they know I've linked to them, or whatever. Usually my BF does this too, but sometimes he likes to test me and it's incredibly stressful. He shaved off his beard once, a few times he wore a completely different style of clothing, or changed his hairstyle, all without warning me. In those moments he won't tell me who he is, or say someone else's name, just to see if I'll figure out it's him. He'll make jokes saying he'll try to switch with one of his friends and see if I'll stay loyal. I usually do realize it's him, but it causes me a lot of anxiety. We've had big fights on this. He says he's allowed to change his look. I'm not a cartoon character. I ask him to warn me. Don't get me wrong, he cares about me, but I don't think he gets how stressful it is. How do I make it clear? We have a lot of great times together, there's just this bump. Update. It's hard to imagine I made this post 19 hours ago and now I'm in the middle of breaking up with him. I'm very tired so I'm going to keep this short. I went to talk to him, showed him this and told him he can't do it anymore. The conversation was, a lot. First he was angry I made this post, then he was angry I was taking it all so serious. Lots of apologies and so on. He again said he was just trying to make a tough situation more light. I said it's too much. He said I can't take a joke and I need to let him be him. That he always tells me when he's been joking and if he was really keen on hurting me he'd just do things and not tell me, so his telling proves he cares. That one made me feel uncomfortable. At one point he said he just wanted to test if it was real, because I could just be using it as an excuse to do anything. I left after that cause we were just going in circles. There was a lot of me making an issue of one small thing. I'm exhausted. He's still blowing up my phone with love and apologies, but you guys made me realize a lot. Thanks, really. I'm trying to stay rational about it but it's hard because I do care about him a lot. I'm gonna get a few hours of sleep. Thank you again. Relevant comments. Comment 1. He is messing with your safety. Does he not realize that? OP. I don't think he realizes how confusing it all is. There was a moment he did the opposite, acting all weirded out when I thanked him for a nice date, saying it wasn't him and though I knew it was, I still started to doubt myself. He did say it was a joke soon after but it caused such a panic. He hasn't done it again but it took me a long time to feel comfortable again. Comment 2. Making someone feel unsafe is not a joke. Gaslighting someone you care about is not a joke. Comment 3. Holy smokes, that's terrifying. Not to recognize a familiar face with a major change like that. That is like nightmare fuel. That your BF does it to you, multiple times on purpose is scary. I don't know if there is a way you can explain it to him if he doesn't get it. It seems he enjoys your panic. Which is not a good thing for a partner. If this was my partner I would get a tattoo or something. And I don't have any. OP, my dad actually got a tattoo on his arm for me, which is a great comfort. I hadn't realized how messed up everything is, until reading all these replies. Comment 4. Your boyfriend is basically abusing you in emotional situations. He thinks it's hilarious you struggle and get severe anxiety which isn't normal, nor does it mean he cares about you. This is a huge red flag OP, abuse is a really big word but I do agree it's not okay. I'm seeing him soon, we'll see how it goes. Update 1. Hi y'all, hope it's okay. I will post a little update. Things went batshit crazy. A lot has happened in the last days. I'm really grateful to you all, honestly. I wasn't aware about the real meaning of his pranks, and what it said about him and our relationship. I went to talk to him the same evening I made that post, with the intention of making clear he can't pull all that anymore. The conversation escalated. We talked for hours into the night and every day since. There's been a lot of messages. He got angry about the Reddit post I made, I showed him. Angry at you guys, angry that I couldn't take a joke and listen to strangers. Said things like he in the beginning didn't believe I actually suffered from it, and would use it as an excuse to cheat on him. That now he does believe, but, due to bad breakups in the past, he has a hard time trusting I won't use it as an excuse regardless. Said he was joking about it because he wanted to make a tough situation lighter and that's just his sense of humor. That if I loved him, I'd accept that. When I made it clear I was done, it got even worse. He began apologizing a lot. Said he didn't realize it was such a big thing for me. Again, didn't make any sense with all said before. In the same breath he said that he at least told me. To the people who thought he actually had planned to trick me by using one of his friends, I think y'all may be very right. To be honest, I was done. I do care about him a lot. Can't just shut that off. But it's never going to work. There's been many messages / calls / etc. He dropped some vague hints that sometimes he pulled pranks I wasn't aware of. I don't know if that is true or he's just in a bad place right now. He also came to my place to apologize again. But I suspect he didn't expect I'd immediately recognize him, as he didn't apologize till I said his name. He's not evil, but just very messed up. I blocked him everywhere, told him not to show up anymore and that a friend would give him his stuff. I'm going to delete this account soon, but I wanted to thank you guys for helping me realize it. I genuinely don't think I would have. I'm heartbroken, but a bit relieved as well. Thanks for all the support and kindness. Relevant comments. Comment 1. I'm glad you broke up. Someone who loves you shouldn't ever do that to you. Just curious about your condition. Do you also have issues with recognizing voices as well as faces? I can only imagine how hard it must be to deal with. OP, actually voices are one of the traits I go by to recognize someone. Voices, posture, tattoos, hairstyle, and so on. Thank you loads. Update 2. This is probably a bit stupid, but that boy has got me questioning my own mind. Either way, sorry if this is a bother. I broke up with my BF a few weeks ago. I had realized, in part thanks to Reddit, that some of his behavior was absolutely not okay, and when I tried to talk to him the conversation escalated to me breaking up with him. I have a pretty severe case of face blindness, prosopagnosia. It means I can't remember people's faces and go by other characteristics to try and put a name to someone. Voice, hairstyle, posture, etc. People around me know and introduce themselves when we meet and other things to make it easier. I have a lot of anxiety because of it. He used to try and test me, which gave me a lot of stress. Changed up his look without warning to see if I knew it was him, and a lot more. He called it pranks. He is a jokester. So we broke up. It's been a lot. He'd been calling or messaging non-stop with both apologies and non-apologies, till I blocked him. In moments of a lot of emotion I said things like I never wanted to see him again, and he'd reply that he was hurt, that I wouldn't even know if it was him and I was lucky he wouldn't do it. Made me feel icky. He contacted me again yesterday, through a new account, saying he just wants one more face-to-face conversation, if only to give him his stuff that is still at my place and get some closure so we can both move on. I said my plan was to get a mutual friend to bring it over to him. He was hurt. He did seem a lot more calm than before and told me we were together for a year, he just wanted one conversation after I suddenly broke things off. That he had some time to process now, etc., and that he doesn't understand how he suddenly, after a year of loving each other, became so evil I couldn't have one chat with him. But I don't feel good about it. My gut is telling me this will not be a good conversation. My worst fears are telling me he might play a trick to prove some point. AITA if I don't reply anymore, just say no. Edit. I didn't expect all these replies. I hope it's okay to respond like this. Thank you all, really. I think I knew already but somehow started to doubt myself. The past weeks have been a lot. I really appreciate and need these words. I'm ready for all of this to be over and done with. Also just a little thank you in general. Reddit's been a wonderful community and it's helped me a lot. Update 3. It's been a wee bit, and since I'm still getting messages about this, I thought I'd just give one big update for this. So more than a month ago I broke up with my BF because he kept pulling pranks involving my face blindness. I can't recognize faces and am dependent on other aspects to recognize someone, and even then it's still confusing. After that he'd been bugging me that he wanted to meet up, so we could get some closure. My gut was telling me not to, but I felt guilty. With you guys' advice, and my own gut feeling, in mind, I decided not to go. I asked a friend, Roger, to go bring him his stuff and kept him blocked, including blocking the new accounts he'd made. Roger came back with a letter from him, to me. The letter in itself was apologetic. He even said he was grateful for our time together and took full responsibility. It ended with him saying he'd respect it if I chose not to reply or message. Honestly, a lot of very respectful words. I still decided not to get in touch. Still trying to get over the breakup myself. But I did appreciate it, till I found out he wasn't letting go like he said. Roger and some other mutual friends let me know he was asking them about me. A lot. If I had read the letter, if I was seeing someone else, already. And so on. Couple of days ago he showed up at my place. He was clearly not sober and upset. He just seemed so broken, so I, stupidly, let him in. For a while he was just being miserably nice, while I got him water and stuff. But the more sober, the more angry he got. At that point I messaged basically everyone I knew to come. I didn't think he'd hurt me, but I didn't feel comfortable being alone with him regardless. Among the many accusations of me not even having the decency to reply, that I clearly never cared about him and that I was a horrendous person, he told me I cheated on him and didn't even know it. So how could I blame him for not trusting me? I'm not gonna lie, I was trying to stay calm but failed. And I know I should have not lost my cool. I screamed at him, asked him what he was talking about. Apparently on a night out with him and others, he asked his friend Mike, who knows of my face blindness and has similar characteristics as my ex, apart from a different voice and smell, to swap out with him and kissed me. And I didn't know. I don't know if he's lying or not. But knowing I was drinking and in a crowded loud room, I know it's a possibility. Especially since Mike tried to kiss me another time, though then I immediately realized it was him and lost my shit at him. When I told my then BF, he was more angry than I had ever seen him, so IDK if the time was a plan as well or not. Either way Mike is a disgusting human. I know it's just a kiss, but it did make me sick to my stomach just thinking about how they might have played me. I told him to get out, he didn't. Luckily it didn't take long for some people to arrive and get him out. I'm endlessly grateful for the people I have around me. I'm staying at my parents' place now, took a break from work and am looking into therapy. My mom and dad, who got a tattoo years ago just so I would never doubt it's him, are treating me like a princess and reminding me of the kindness people deserve. Haven't looked into a restraining order, but might if it continues. Thanks to you all for helping me see what's right in this situation. Reddit has been a wonderful community I am very grateful for. I probably won't update anymore, as this is over and done with. But I'm glad I got to pour my heart out to y'all. Update 4. We broke up nearly 3 months ago. It wasn't pretty. There were a lot of things not right between us. Among other things, he kept joking with the fact that I have a severe case of face blindness. I wasn't perfect in this relationship either BTW, not trying to make him the villain. Usually I go by voice, obvious traits and so on. I'm lucky enough to have a lot of wonderful people around me who'll introduce themselves once we start talking, warn me if they change their looks or even wear something that'll help me, like my dad who got a tattoo just for me. But it's still hard and gives me so much anxiety. So maybe I'm imagining it all? I stayed with my parents and we cousins for a while after the breakup, but since I'm home, I feel like he's still around. The first time, I went to a club with a friend and her BF, started dancing with a guy and went outside with him to get some air. The moment we stepped outside and I heard his voice, I knew it was him. I was so sure. I freaked, went inside again and left with my friend. I messaged him later and he denied it vehemently, telling me he was not even near there. That we can meet up and talk if I want. My friend says she's not sure, she was off with her BF and didn't see him. So maybe I'm wrong. My gut says it was him, but I can't trust my brain with these things. There's been more incidents like this since. If I go out, sometimes I just feel like he's there. Like I'll see a guy focused on me and will know it's him, but he'll deny it. Or someone will come to my job and I'll recognize the voice, but he responds so confused and I'll feel like a crazy person making a scene, so I just quietly give him what he needs. I'll go to the grocery store and a guy will suddenly be next to me. He won't even say anything to me, but the smell traits tell me it's him. But then later he denies it all. It's not every day, or something. Once a week, maybe not even that. But it's enough to make me feel so on edge. The thing is, I could be wrong. Maybe it was never him. I don't go out a lot anymore, unless I'm with someone. I keep my phone in my hand in hopes of snapping a picture to show to my friends. Looking into how to get a camera. I don't know what else to do really. I'm afraid if I talk to others about it, they'll simply dismiss it. At the same time he's still messaging me, just as kindly as when we first started dating. He says he's worried about me, that he wants to help. And I just feel like I'm going crazy. Maybe I am. Update 5. I have a quite severe case of face blindness, but have my own ways to get around, like all of us. But still I can never be completely sure who's in front of me until they confirm it. I'm sure you know the feeling. Now I have had wonderful people in my life who make it so much easier for me. But have you had people who don't do that? My previous BF messed with me sometimes and I sometimes worry he might still be. But it's hard to be sure, when I can't trust what I see. Sometimes I'm so sure it's him, but he'll deny it and I can never convince myself to be 100% certain of what I saw. Do you have any things you did to deal with people who messed with you? Or didn't you take your prosopagnosia seriously? New update. First, thanks to the mods for allowing me to post this update. I don't know if anyone will see this, but I keep getting messages about this, very kind ones, for which I'm grateful, and thought I'd just do a wee update. I'm not in the best place mentally, so I will keep this short. This will also be my last one, as Liv taken plenty of your time as is and don't really know what to do with the attention, though I'm extremely appreciative of all the support and advice. I posted here a while ago about how I wasn't sure if my ex was messing with me, and my face blindness, or if I was just being paranoid. I now know it's both. I really did feel like a crazy person. The day I made the post I broke off contact with him again. I got a few more messages from him, all kind and concerned-ish. Even some mutual friends, and one girl I barely know, reached out saying they were worried because of what my ex told them. But here's the thing, I did manage to subtly make two videos, 2 different times, in which my parents could clearly see him. Honestly, I was an absolute mess. Since then I've also been staying with my parents again and took a break from work. We're trying to look into a restraining order, but it's not that easy. There's some redemption though. A friend did what I didn't have the balls to do and completely exposed him. Got some very angry messages from my ex after, in which he, among other things, said he just happened to be in the same place, but now I'm making him out to be some kind of stalker because of my insecurities. Doesn't explain why he didn't just say it was him though. Or how it happened at least twice in less than 2 weeks. That's where we're at right now. I wish I could tell you more. I'm kind of stuck right now. I have no proof about the previous times. Even more so, there's been moments in the past weeks I also thought it was him, and it wasn't. Either confirmed by video, or because I wasn't alone. Then there's been some times in the last weeks where I didn't manage to get any recording, photo. Though I'm relieved to have some answers, I'm also heartbroken. I don't know how to process knowing there's people that'll abuse my flaws in this way. I feel incredibly paranoid and it's exhausting. I'm looking into moving away. At the same time I'm hopeful this is the end of it, that him getting exposed will be the end of this. Multiple people have told him to back off and leave me alone. I'm happy to be home with my parents for now. I'm safe, thanks for all the advice. Relevant comments. Commenter, dude is an abusive psycho. Put him on blast. He has serious mental problems. OP, I'm gonna sound like an absolute idiot, but I still often feel conflicted about it. I wish he'd just admit to everything. There's a lot of things that feel uncertain and I'm having a hard time letting those go. Like, I only have proof about those 2 times. What if he's right and it was only those 2? Still wouldn't be okay, but IDK, either way, just hope it all ends here. My husband abandoned us to see the Grateful Dead's final show, leaving me and the kids broke. I've decided to plan our divorce. Am I the asshole? My husband is a deadhead. His entire identity is built around this band and he's seen them and their various incarnations over 50 times. Normally I don't mind, but 2 years ago I was in an accident that left me unable to work. I now receive a tiny disability check once a month for it. He works, but it hasn't been easy with the cost of everything skyrocketing. My disability check doesn't even cover the full cost of our rent, even though our rent is the lowest in our area. Long story short, Dead & Company is made up of what remains of the Grateful Dead and this is supposed to be their last tour. We live on the East Coast, where he's already seen them twice, which was already more than we can afford. But a few days ago he took out a loan and bought tickets to go see their final show in San Francisco along with round-trip air and hotel and whatever else he needs out there. Me and the kids are left with $10, some pocket change and what feels like a very big fuck you. School starts back in a month and the kids both need school supplies and clothes. I could name 1,000 things we need, things that we're going without while money is tight, but this is what he chose to do. We're not going to starve over the weekend, but I don't even have enough money to go get them a pizza while their dad is having a blast on the other side of the country and hanging out with his online Deadhead fam. I understand that this band means a lot to him and I tried to be supportive of that, but I feel like he's crossed a line here. He refused to talk about how much all of this is costing us, but when I looked up the cost of concert tickets, flight tickets, hotels, transportation and food, the bare minimum figure I get is still around $1,000. It could very well be and probably is a lot more than that. I've supported him through a lot of things, but this weekend, while he's off having fun and leaving us to fend for ourselves, I'm slowly planning my divorce. I'm playing nice while I get all of my ducks in a row, but this is it for me. I'm tired of watering down essentials like shampoo or laundry soap, living off rice and beans just for him to turn around and take out a loan so he can go to a show all by himself across the country. Edit to say I commented somewhere below to let everyone know the current plan. Apologies if you have to scroll to find it. OP adds an update to a deleted comment. You guys, I wish I had the time to thank you all individually for the overwhelming support I've received here. I really was not expecting that when I posted. Even though I'm dealing with something so fucked up, I feel so much better than I did a few hours ago, knowing there are so many decent and kind people out there, so thank you for that. I mean it. As for everything else, divorce is inevitable. He might not be a total monster, and I'm sure on any other day I would have been able to tell you 1,000 different things that are good about him, but this is a huge betrayal and I just don't see how we're going to come back from that. We're only barely making ends meet now, and this one single selfish act of his leaves us thousands of dollars in the hole overnight. I'm occasionally capable of small miracles, but pulling money I don't have out of my ass isn't one of them. It's the weekend now, so I won't be able to even think about speaking to a lawyer until Monday at the earliest. I wish I could say I'm packing up now, but the reality is I'm stuck here, at least for a little while. The $10 I have in my account doesn't go very far these days. I'll have money again on the 1st, so tomorrow I'll be packing just the essentials, birth certificates and the like, and taking them to my friend's house for safekeeping for now. I'll also be calling my landlord to see about having my name removed from the lease agreement. I'm not going to tell my husband I'm leaving yet though. He's going to come home and tell me what a beautiful experience it was. Tell me how much he wishes I could have been there and how he'll take me one of these days and make it up to me eventually. And I'll smile and play along for the next 2 weeks. I'm not sure where I'm going yet, but I do know I'm not going to pay 3/4 of the rent just to be immediately broke again and have the lights and water and phone all turned off a few days later because he put us in this financial pit. I hope his social media fam are impressed enough by his presence and Instagram stories to make all this worth it to him. I hate it. I can't even begin to explain how hurt and shocked and tired and angry I am. I'm also numb. I don't know how it's possible to feel all this at the same time, but hey, here I am. Thank you though from the bottom of my heart. And for the handful of pecans wringing their hand about me being a leech and sucking the joy out of his life. Keep in mind that I worked from the time I was 16 up until I got hurt, and there were plenty of times throughout this relationship where I was the breadwinner. I provided for him during those times because that's what people in relationships do for one another. I'm very sorry you've never cared enough about someone else or had anyone care about you to understand that. I draw disability now because I paid into a system that was put into place to do for people exactly what it's doing for me right now. Edit. I appreciate the offers, I really do, but if you need to donate to anything, please donate to your local animal shelter or food closet or a needy family in your neighborhood. This blew up way bigger than I thought my rant was worth to anyone, but the kids and I are gonna be okay. We're leaving tonight to stay with a couple of friends. Everything is moving very quickly now, it's sort of surreal. OP updates the original post update. I wasn't expecting I'd need an update already, but he knows. Someone here decided to share my vent elsewhere so he saw it on Facebook. He's angry that I've made him look like an asshole. I told him all I did was talk about it without naming him. And if people decide he's an asshole based on his actions, he's got no one to blame but himself. I'm so nervous, I'm shaking and I feel like I might vomit. Some friends have offered to come help me pack and let me and the boys stay with them until I can figure out something more permanent. Edit. Also, please don't try to send me, or anyone pretending to be me, pretending to collect on my behalf, anything. We're in good hands right now and we're not going to go without. I figured, since this whole thing blew up today, I might as well tell all of my friends what's going on and they've really pulled up for us, so we're definitely going to be okay. Relevant comments. Comment 1, divorce him. He has made it clear he doesn't care about you or your kids. Anyone that's selfish needs to be held accountable and the only way to do that is by leaving him. OP, I'm finally realizing this. He's always been a bit selfish, but usually it's smaller things like buying one of his fam birthday rounds with our last $5. We were already struggling because his last 2 East Coast shows really set us back hard. He missed work for both those shows, but we could have skimmed because he used his PTO for those shows. But not only did he take out a loan for San Fran, he has no PTO left and he's missing 3 days of work, which means his next paycheck is going to be super slim and we'll have a new loan payment to make. I'm expecting this to set us back at least 2 or 3 months, but probably more. The kids go back to school in a month. The youngest had a massive growth spurt and literally none of his clothes fit. He's got a single pair of jeans, 2 pairs of shorts, and I think 5 t-shirts that he can still wear. I have no idea how I'm going to do this, but I'm tired of making all these sacrifices just so he can go do whatever he feels like. Comment 2. That is shockingly bad. He doesn't care if you and his own children are low on food and necessities. If he's gotten this low, who knows what he will do in the future, and you said he's always been selfish. This goes beyond selfishness, and I agree with all the other comments about divorce. There's no going back from this. At least that's my opinion. I wouldn't be able to ever see him the same again, and I'd be absolutely heartbroken. I'm sorry he did this. Don't let anyone downplay his actions. OP, I keep going back and forth between heartache and rage. We've been together for almost 20 years and I cannot believe he would stoop so low to just leave us like that. Life feels so unreal right now. I have a doc appointment this week that I'm gonna have to call and cancel first thing Monday morning because I don't have the money for it anymore. This is so fucked. It's 8 in the morning and I didn't sleep at all last night worrying about this stuff. I can't wrap my head around it. Update. I was injured in a work-related accident that has severely affected my mobility, and this process has been ridiculously slow, in part because my lawyer told me we needed to know how well I might expect to recover and a slew of other things, and those things require time and doctors. I've been basically guaranteed a fairly large settlement. The problem is I'm planning on filing for divorce tomorrow. I had a fairly solid career before my accident while my husband sorta skipped from job to job. I was fine with that at the time, but I'm on disability now and my husband has made a series of increasingly awful financial decisions that, well, let's just say they're bad and I can't stay married to him anymore. Are either of us entitled to alimony? Will he be entitled to any of this settlement when it comes through? If I collect child support from him, is that going to have any bearing on my other case? I'm calling my attorney and maybe a divorce attorney tomorrow if my current attorney can't do it. Hopefully he can recommend someone, but I don't know how long it'll take to set up a meeting, and I guess I just wanted to ask here first so I'll have some kind of heads up. Married almost 20 years in South Carolina, if that matters. My accident was about 2 years ago. He's never acted as my caretaker or anything because I stayed at my mother's home with our children where she did most of the caretaking when I actually required it. Relevant comments. Comment 1. He shouldn't be, but this is something you should talk to your divorce lawyer about. They'll have far more information and the steps you will need to take to protect yourself and your kids. This is a little above Reddit's pay grade. OP. I'm planning on doing that ASAP. I'm just very nervous and freaking out a little because of course everything blew up over the weekend when all of the offices are closed. 9 a.m. can't get here fast enough. Thank you though. Comment 2. Congrats on moving on. It's never easy. I think that the settlement payment should be separate property if received after the legal separation. Filing date. When you file, you list community assets, debts and separate property/debts, which include things you had before the marriage and had after the separation. I would think that since you don't have a judgment or payment yet, you should be entitled to that as separate property. OP, thank you. It's been nerve-wracking and kind of scary. When you file, you list community assets, debts and separate property/debts, which include things you had before the marriage and had after the separation. This part scares me. A few days ago I found out he'd taken out a loan for personal reasons. I have no idea where or how much it was for. All I know is I didn't get a dime of it. I tried to guesstimate how much he got based on his plans, but I've been told by others that number is likely way off. I'm worried that he's done this before, because while he makes decent money, we've been so broke and barely scraping by. After bills and stuff, he should have at least $500 left over every month, more if he's had any raises since starting, but we can't even afford the basics anymore. So if it turns out he's been getting credit cards or other loans and owes a ton of money without my knowledge, am I on the hook for that? Even if I didn't benefit from it in any way? Comment 3. Unfortunately, most likely the answer is yes. Sign up for a credit monitoring service and run a credit report. Better yet, sign up for 2 accounts, one in his name. You'll be able to see what loans and credit cards are taken out and account payment history and balances. And importantly, lock your credit so he can't take out more cards or loans. You'll have to lock in with all 3 credit score companies. Do this now. We couldn't save our 15-year marriage, because my wife friend-zoned me and wants a platonic companionship. My wife, 35F, and I, 35M, have been married for 15 years and we've been together for 20 years. We have 2 kids, 12, 14. We absolutely adore and work tirelessly to provide the best possible life for them. For the past 3 years, things have been somewhat bumpy. I understand that our kids are at an age where they require a ton of our attention and resources with school, band, club sports, and other extracurriculars, and I'm aware of the physical and emotional toll that can have on marriages. However, For these past 3 years, my wife and I have had very little intimacy and very little sex, and we've been trying very hard to work on that aspect of our relationship. This past year has been the most difficult and by far the darkest year in our marriage. We didn't talk very much. We essentially became roommates, co-parenting our kids under the same roof. It was very depressing and very demoralizing. It was to the point where we began contemplating divorce, and it became very dark and gloomy in the household because of that. We began seeking help with both individualized therapy and couples therapy, and it seems to have helped some. Little by little we started to get along and started to have deeper conversations about what our marriage looks like and what we would love for it to look like. This is where it gets tough. As time passed, my wife started to tell me she no longer was in love with me, and that she only saw me as a best friend. That she only loved me in a very platonic way, and this was one of the main reasons she didn't have any desire for intimacy and let alone sex. This was very shocking to me, and quite frankly, I was devastated. I became angry and depressed, and I couldn't fathom the thought that I was no longer wanted or desired by the person I felt completely in love with. Things began to deteriorate again, and not long after, we were back to square one. I sat down with her one afternoon and had a heart-to-heart and began to ask questions about where the root of this problem lies, and her answer was, "I don't know," and that, "I have built up resentment towards you, but I don't know where it stems from." As you can imagine, this provides very little to no insight into how to approach this. I'm puzzled, I'm frustrated, and I do not know what to do at this point. Currently, we've arrived at a place where she says that she has no sex drive and no desire for intimacy or connection. She says that all she wants is simply companionship, which basically means our co-parenting roommate dynamic. I asked her what I could possibly do, or what is it about me that is so unattractive or undesirable, and her response is always, "I don't know." She stated that she does love me, but it's not the same. That she has been feeling disconnected for years, and that our marriage just takes up too much work. Her focus is only the children for now, and that my co-parenting contributions are meaningful to her in our home. I'm at a loss, and I'm mainly venting about my frustration. It's tough to realize that the person you love has no feelings for you. I feel like at this point I'm only here to contribute financially and as a parent. I feel like what she means with companionship is that she's comfortable with the convenience of having a good father for our kids and my financial contribution to the household. In regard to intimacy and/or sex, she basically told me that it's not something she's interested in, or wants at this time. She mentioned that the only way to get to a point for any of that is to be intoxicated, which is incredibly awful and very wrong. I told her I do not think forcing herself to have sex or be intimate by drinking or smoking is good, and I declined to be a part of that, which to my surprise, it upset her and made her more distant. We're both extremely honest and transparent. We've never cheated on each other, and we are always free to look through each other's phones, emails, socials, etc. And we hardly ever do. I asked her if there was someone else, and she declined. Honestly, I believe her. We then peacefully went through each other's things, and as expected, it was clean. We've always been very forward, even with the hard topics, so I don't smell or feel any foul play or infidelity. Am I wrong for declining to only be intimate or have sex when she's intoxicated? I'm firm on my stance of not partaking in this only when I'm high or drunk sex, because it doesn't sit well with me. I do not know how to help our situation, and I'm starting to become a bit anxious and desperate. We're both fairly young and healthy individuals and good looking. We both have good standing careers and are good parents. I'm just not sure how our lives could have driven us to this point. I'd love some outside perspective on this matter and some insight on how to address something like this. It feels so awful to be unwanted and undesired by my own spouse. I hate it. My wife of 15 plus years is no longer in love with me and doesn't know why, and now says she can only have sex while intoxicated, or I need to settle for a platonic sexless marriage, and she doesn't know why that is, but it is what it is, and I'm in need of insight or advice. Relevant comments, missing reasons. Commenters looked at his history and found they were swingers. We did some swinging in the past. That was fun for some time. We mutually decided to stop doing it, and we have established it's not the case. When we were swinging, however, our marriage seemed to be in a good place. This is something we did disclose with our couple therapist and made sure to include it to make sure we're not neglecting an obvious potential issue. I will say, I did ask my wife if what she experienced during swinging is something that is affecting her view on our relationship, and she said it wasn't. Our swinging experience was always together, and it was very sex-driven. Nothing really emotional or poly. Truth is, I have to believe her at her word. I have no reason to distrust her. To date, she's always been very forward and never afraid of dealing things head on, no matter how painful. If this is a consequence of swinging, this issue existed long before the lifestyle. I agree that swinging wasn't a solution in the end. Never was meant to be. It was more of discovering or exploring if she felt any different. If that was the case, we agreed we would talk about it, and if we arrive at the conclusion that myself is the problem and she has no problem with other men, we would part ways amicably. However, this wasn't the case. She didn't like sex or intimacy there either. She was very much in control of that whole swinging situation. And yes, I went along with it. What gives? It felt very organic, and it was her effort, if you will, to discover more and learn more about our current issue. I saw it as a means of learning if I'm the problem and was very much ready to accept that. It turns out it wasn't the case. 6 years of misery sound awful. I would very much hate that. OP on if this started when the swinging ended. Finally, a comment on the swinging topic with actual insight. You're absolutely right about the fact that the swinging experience had changes that will impact our marriage and lives forever. For example, the best thing swinging taught us, even above sexual exploration, was the level of transparent and open communication it requires. We would literally have mental orgasms having dialogue with such intentionality. We implemented that in all our lives and areas, including parenting with our children. She even agrees that we're thankful for that takeaway from our swinging. Honestly, I cannot stress it enough with people here. Yes, we explored swinging. However, it was actually a positive experience. When we decided to stop, it was because it felt natural and organic to just do so. In fact, we met with that couple who we meshed super well with the night before. We actually enjoyed the actual friendship and even spent time as vanilla friends. So it wasn't because of something negative. Wife mentioned that it certainly wasn't any better, and since she's not enjoying the sex, we both agreed there's no point to this. I agreed, and we moved on, and we're still friends with those people because it's great. All that said, I know, more often than not, swinging causes massive issues. However, this was something we explored in pursuit of a solution to an issue that was present way before. I think of it as taking a practical approach to trying to solve the problem. Update 1. I wanted to give you guys an update of how the therapy session with my wife went this week. Not sure if this is helpful or not, but I took many of the responses, comments, suggestions from my initial post and put together some things I wanted to discuss with our couples therapist to help us navigate some of the core issues that may be affecting this situation. One of the main things that is the buzzword of this has been the term resentment, and it has been really eating me up inside knowing my wife keeps telling me she doesn't know why she's resentful or doesn't know why this is affecting her emotionally, mentally. I brought this up with our therapist once again and resurfaced the conversation about being married for so long, 15 years, and being together since we were 14 years old. Our long history of growing up and how having children when she was 19 years old, me 20, significantly changed the trajectory of our lives. We experienced severe poverty and many hardships in the process, and we essentially had zero social life for the past 10 years because we were so busy raising babies, 2 kids now ages 12 and 14. She followed up with tons of questions directly, mostly from my wife about her feelings towards this, and 90% of the responses were very our kids focused. It definitely felt like she was afraid of saying yes it sucked, because she would feel guilt or shame because it would imply she regrets the kids. I mentioned this in the session, and the therapist encouraged her to look at this outside of the lens of being a mother and to try to view it a bit more selfishly and individually, and it was very eye-opening. My wife mentioned that she was very frustrated with the fact that we did miss out on many things in life. She also was very clear in saying, I do not think I missed out on other partners or dating or partying, but I certainly lost all my friends. This was huge because one of the big pieces that has caused a strain in our lives is how siloed and isolated we've been, again busy raising kids. I followed up by reminding her that it's important to have good friends and to make time for herself and her friendships. For the past 3+ years, we've had multiple conversations about friends and how it is important to have them in life. Especially when you have similar peers that can help in many areas of life that perhaps we have no experience navigating, and even simply for enjoyment. It has always been something my wife avoids, even though she's always been someone who needs that external stimuli. The main reason for her not investing in friends or even herself has always been the kids. Like I mentioned earlier in this post, 90% of the answers have to relate to the kids to some degree. At this point in our session, I started to feel like there was a common denominator, the kids, in most of the frustrations and problems she was experiencing. So I simply asked her, do you think you may be upset at me because I'm responsible for these kids in the sense that I got you pregnant so young? I wasn't ready, but she said that she was upset at me for that. She also followed up with the fact that she knows that's unreasonable because it takes 2 to tango. I did feel like it was progress because it kind of gave us something to work on and help alleviate some of these burdens, so we agreed to invest more time in nurturing good friendships both together and individually. Towards the end of the session, we began to discuss what actionable items we would take from this session. At this point, it was still all very ambiguous and blurry as to what the outcomes were. I was very direct and very forward in asking my wife what her plan is moving forward. Note, I had decided prior to the session that should my wife say the same thing about being a co-parenting roommate that I would take the 180 approach and essentially do me. She started basically saying the same thing, that she doesn't have any desire to be intimate or sexual with me as of now and that she loves me immensely and she feels bad for not being there for me, as mentioned in my first post. I also brought up the brief swinging that happened, to which for the 50th time said it wasn't a problem. I agree with her on this. This was something that was a mechanical approach for a solution to a problem that was very much in existence when we tried this. We, both, really have no issue with this. We know it happened. We tried it and mutually stopped and turned the page. I also brought up other life events that may cause resentment and really we ended up not getting anywhere else as far as the root for resentment, which was discouraging. I then basically expressed to my wife that I will not be okay with that arrangement. I told her that I've really done everything I can and that this issue really has reached a point where it has nothing to do with me or requires me to do anything that I'm currently not doing. I was very direct and said that I will not be accepting this dynamic and that I need to be with someone who is actively involved in our marriage, works towards resolutions and is very much interested in maintaining an active intimacy and sexual relationship. I expressed how I'm not going to be a convenience, and that there was more to life than being roommates and co-parents. I made sure she knows I love her dearly and that I do want this to work for the better. I also told her that I'm fully committed to this marriage so long as she is as well and that if she wasn't, it's okay. However, I will not be a part of something where these efforts are not reciprocated. I told her I have no plans of leaving, and I do not want a divorce. However, I made it clear that if this dynamic continues that divorce will be the only outcome. Of course tears were involved and it was a very bleak and sad ending to the session. Still nothing was said and I walked out very discouraged and very determined to start working on the 180 as soon as we left the room. It's painful and very difficult because much of the 180 requires you to be very short and cold and transactional. The saddest part is realizing, this dynamic already is very cold and transactional. Here's where it gets very interesting. I started working on implementing many of the 180 recommendations that same day. I mentioned to my wife that, hey, things are going to be a bit different moving forward. I'm going to honor her roommate co-parent dynamic without reproach and that it should be no mistake that I'm not happy here and I am never going to be okay with it, but I am done working on it if she wasn't going to work on it. She agreed and went to bed. I started to build distance and started to basically focus on myself. Very short and transactional. She asked for help on some of her personal things to which I declined and it really shocked her. She was upset saying I was being petulant. I explained to her that she is now fully in charge of her own life and her own issues. We didn't talk all day and we only spoke when necessary. Few days I keep this going and she's very visibly upset and stressed. I typically react to that with gestures of help or nurturing, but I didn't this time. That night she was crying telling me she's stressed and she thinks something is wrong with me because I'm indifferent. I simply listened, then I told her that this is the dynamic she proposed and that I'm simply, much like her, taking care of myself and focusing on myself. I'm not going to lie. It has been very hard to be cold and distant because as I mentioned before, I love her and I wish I could hold her and love on her. However, I know this is somewhat manipulative in a way just to get her way and still keep me in the friend zone. So I've been staying the course. We're now going on a week of this 180 and let's just say, there has been many changes on her side. I think she is starting to realize there is more to me than just friends and co-parenting. I sent her a text a few days ago essentially itemizing bills and separating the financial responsibilities 50-50ths and she lost her shit. She basically told me it was out of left field, to which I responded, hey, friends go in 50-50ths and as your friend I expect nothing less. This was very eye-opening because it gave me a glimpse of how I'm really taken for granted and how her level of comfort and convenience at my expense is really overlooked. I pushed through anyway and basically told her that this is the new dynamic she asked for and that it's still a bargain, because she would have to be 100% if she was on her own. I'll wrap up with this. While the 180 has been working in many different areas, I am still very much sad about the overall situation. There have been many eye-opening statements being said and realization that have not been pleasant to encounter. It has also sparked new energy and new efforts on her side as well. She's definitely seeking to talk to me more often and while it's hard to turn down, I hope if things improve this continues to happen. I've also noticed that she's making more time for herself aside from being a mom, which is huge because she pretty much neglected herself for years. I'm very pleased seeing her be more herself. My hope is that as we work on ourselves, the marriage improves. There really is no telling at this point where this will go. We are very much cordial and amicable even to this day and that's a very good sign. Boundaries are set and expectations are very clear and I feel that no matter the outcome, I will be at peace with everything that has been done. We're still going to continue the couples therapist until we either rekindle our marriage or end up in divorce. I feel like having this unbiased third party really helps as a witness and as a guide through this. No matter what, I will always love my wife. However, I will not participate in a sexless, intimacy-less marriage because we both deserve better. Thank you all for all the kind words and recommendations and feedback. This will be my last post on this topic and I wish you all the best. TLDR. My wife friend-zoned me wants to just co-parent at my expense, but I started the 180 method to try and find a solution because she doesn't want to work on us, which seems to be working on getting her out of her rut and helping me discover more about how she feels. Also, therapy is paramount and highly recommended to all couples. Relevant comments. Comment 1. So, I'm going to assume that your wife has a lucrative job and you are both going 50-50ths on childcare, as you both work and share children. Because otherwise, this approach is just plain financially abusive, and if you're planning on saying I won't pay the bills unless you have sex with me, sexually abusive as well. Assuming that is the case and you aren't a total POS, I'm actually interested in how this works out for you. I feel like I'm in an unstated, similar situation. We both work and have blended finances, but we don't go to bed together or eat together, have barely any intimacy, a kiss or two, hugs every couple days, and spend maybe 8 hours a week together, just the three of us, him, me, and the toddler. Even less just the two of us, maybe 3 hours a week. Otherwise, he is on his game, or out playing sports, watching YouTube, or whatever else he does. It barely feels like a friend situation, let alone a marriage. I'm curious how she handles it, as the spouse that presumably was pulling away first. I hope you keep us updated. OP, yes, we both have degrees, good careers, and while I make significantly more money, her salary is very proficient and above average. The 50-50ths was not to cripple nor hurt her financially, that is cruel, but mostly to send a message on what a roommate dynamic looks like in the real world. I really dislike how people immediately jump to conclusions about the finances as a way of manipulating her. It's not the case at all. Plenty of money left over after bills. However, 50-50ths means she has less whatever money, and the understanding that roommates share everything equally. Prior to this 180 approach, we did everything together and with our kids. We always saw ourselves as a unit that does things together. Both alone and with the kids too. That's changed now where I'm choosing to focus on more independent types of pastimes and focus. That is what has sparked her reaction and realization of there's more than just roommates here. Comment 2. How does one dump half of the household expenses on the other person if they share a bank account? Or are your finances kept separately? Just curious how this would work if applied to my life. OP, excellent question. We shared everything. The proposed 50-50ths was suggesting we place the necessary amount to pay bills in the same account and any leftover money can be deposited to a new account. I think this is why she was very upset. She felt a huge loss of control knowing she won't be able to monitor my finances. Also, she felt a huge loss in her leftover money with this arrangement and saw that I would keep significantly more of my own. This is still being worked out because I think she is calling my bluff here, but my plan is to notify her next week as I modify my direct deposit and open a new account. It will definitely be more real there. To be clear, for all the trolls here, yes, she will have less leftover money after responsibilities and it's still enough to live on. Example, for reference. Assume I make $3,000 a month, she makes $1,000 a month. Responsibilities are $1,000 a month. So she'd contribute $500 and I would contribute $500. Where before she would contribute only $250. This is the last comment I'll add regarding money and finances. She's fine and she's not hurting. I promise when asked what if she leaves for another man interesting. She has no shortage of men hitting on her and we're by no means jealous people. So I've witnessed this multiple times and her reactions are somewhat indifferent. I will say, if another man for her was the answer, she'd tell me or she'd have some inkling maybe. There's no telling, but I think the problem is deeper than superficial attention from a different person. You might be right, and if this is the case, so be it. However, I'll live with peace knowing I left no stone left unturned. Crazy thought, I know I would be disappointed and saddened if she did leave for another man that would accept the bare minimum. But I'd also feel a peace knowing it's not all my fault. I know I'm responsible in some way to some degree. That's just marriage. I know sadness and depression will creep but we'll both overcome, but if this does happen at least there will be clear reasons and clarity as to why it did. Also, I know for a fact that she wouldn't cheat. We're both very blunt, open and transparent. She would definitely tell me that she wants to step out on our marriage before it actually happens. As would I. We owe ourselves this respect for each other and we actively practice it. New update. I debated for a long time on whether to submit an update on this matter. A few significant changes have taken place and I felt it would be good to not only share with you, but also to allow myself to process all of this in a uniform way. We're now almost 9 weeks in on the 180 method I mentioned I was starting, and it started to render some positive reactions from my wife. I explained in the previous post that she started to notice things that she previously took for granted, started to ask more about my whereabouts, and also started to notice I would go out with the kids more often without her, and she started to invite herself, to which I didn't decline. So much has changed, and it has changed for what seems to be for the better. This past Memorial Day weekend, my wife asked me if I wanted to go out for coffee because she wanted to talk to me about something. This was huge, because I can't recall the last time my wife asked to talk to me about something important. I must admit, I was very nervous and worried about what this could be about, and my mind was racing with the plethora of scenarios of what it could possibly be. Of course I agreed, and we took some time away from the kids to have this conversation at a local coffee shop. The talk was very constructive in nature. There was a ton of insightful information about herself that helped me further understand where she is in life, both emotionally and mentally. We summarized what the core issues we are encountering are, and she asked me for help. This is new, and I cannot tell you how excited I was to hear something so sincere coming from my wife, who for the last 2+ years has been absent. So after she was through sharing all her thoughts, I proposed a plan that I felt was right for us. This is something that I had been thinking about these last few weeks, and I was planning on bringing this up in a few months if I noticed that things were not changing for the better. This date felt like the right place to share it, since it goes hand in hand with what she talked about, and it also relates to the help she was asking me for. I started by first acknowledging her feelings and her concerns. I told her they are valid, and how she feels is personal to her, and that I care that she feels this way because I don't like the thought of her being sad or depressed. I also told her that my goal still is and will always be for us to reconcile and be the happily ever after we vowed to be for each other, and that my love for her is as strong, if not stronger, as it was the day we said I do. I continued the conversation by telling her how I felt about the whole situation, read my previous posts for details, and how it affects me every day. I also clarified some things that she mentioned she was feeling because I have been very distant and monotone, transactional, lately. I explained to her that I was very much trying to protect my feelings and emotions from the rejection and neglect, and that it wasn't personal. It was simply me safeguarding myself because I cannot control her, I can only control myself. This was a perfect segue way to the core of this approach, which is focused on self-accountability. I told her that for the longest time I was always working hard to make her happy and do things that I knew she enjoyed or wanted. However, I was always met with rejection and disappointment, which caused a load of stress on me. I explained to her that I had to make a change for myself. After all, I can only control myself and make the changes that I want for myself. I mentioned how I was starting to implement new habits and routines that help edify me, all while still executing all of our shared responsibilities, including parenting, finances, and daily living activities. I explained that the goal is to continue to improve myself both as a husband and father, learn more, and be healthier, among other things. She was very receptive to this. She told me that she sees what I'm doing and that she is proud of the changes she has seen. She also told me how she's starting to realize that she feels left behind and that much of the things that have affected her negatively are her own fault. Toward the end of the conversation, which was about 3 hours, there was a very high spirit of reconciliation in the room. I told her that my goal is to ultimately make this work. However, I was very clear that I was not going to live under the current circumstances. I told her that my heart wants her to be happy even if it means elsewhere, and that I also deserve to be happy myself. I also explained that I do not want our children to grow up thinking this was okay or normal because they deserve better as well. She told me she doesn't either. She told me she doesn't know what to do, to which I replied, let's set some clear goals. However, the goals will be for ourselves, not for each other. So here is what we established. We are in charge of our own happiness. The key here is that she's not responsible for making me happy, and vice versa. We both need to seek what that personal plan looks like individually. Also, we're both encouraged to include each other in taking those steps if we want, but it is not required. We are in control of our own individual lives and our own journey. This means we're both responsible for finding the resources necessary to grow, change, and heal. We can definitely help one another when help is requested. However, unsolicited advice or help will not be rendered. We are responsible for communicating. This ensures nothing is left unsaid. If it was never brought up or discussed, it never happened. We're not mind readers, and we need to take ownership when we fail to communicate. Make a list of needs and wants. This gives us both clear directions about meeting each other's needs. This also gives us a choice as to what we want, choose to do, compromise on, or decline to do. This list also will not serve as a checklist for accountability. We made it clear we would not be bringing this list up for the purpose of arguing. And it was up to the other person to use the list as a tool for growth, transparency, or clarification. We concluded that it was up to us to decide if we will be happy doing these things for ourselves because we care, not to simply check a box. This was very important in order to establish long-term habits and not short-term band-aids, because you cannot make someone change or do something they don't believe is important. Established a deadline, Memorial Day 2025. At the end of the conversation, we concluded by setting Memorial Day 2025 as a hard stop to evaluate our lives and our progress. We agreed we would do this with the clear understanding that we will independently decide if we are happy here. If we determine we aren't happy, we will be getting a divorce. We would also both assume full responsibility for what happened should we get divorced. For example, if needs were not met, it would mean my partner chose not to meet them. This places full responsibility on each other in all areas. The whole process requires that if needs were not met, the next question should be, did we do everything to address this issue? If yes, then we will have a clear conscience of what transpired and know we left no stone unturned. If, however, we didn't do everything to address the issue, it will mean the issue was not important enough for you or didn't care to meet those needs. This goes both ways in all areas, like everything else. We established that the main motivator for change should be ourselves, and that if we did that, we would in turn begin to see beneficial changes towards each other. The goal is to ensure that everything we are doing for one another to meet each other's needs is being done because we want to do it for our spouse, not because she asked. Instead, it was done because I know it makes him her happy and I love seeing them happy. I felt it was important to mention to her that we are no longer required to do anything for each other. It is now more of a I want to do these things for each other. Ultimately, I felt the conversation was very positive and productive. Many tears were shed and lots of hugging ensued. I know this doesn't mean or guarantee anything, however, this has never happened before and I can honestly attribute it to the 180 method. I cannot give any more insight on this method other than it's the only thing I did differently and something new happened for what seems to be better. I've decided I will conclude and will refrain from this method moving forward as the plan now has changed. I'm planning to devote myself entirely to not only myself and my growth but to also work on her needs and wants because I want her to be happy by my side. She said and agreed she would do the same for herself. We agreed we would help and build each other wherever we request for it and that we will be approaching this as a team. As of today, some of the biggest changes I have noticed are her commitment to therapy and mental health. She is taking some antidepressants that are helping her. She is also more confident and in a far better mood more frequently. We have started to explore more ways of intimacy in multiple areas such as physical touch and words of affirmation. Sex is starting to make an appearance, which is exciting. Side note, sex was very awkward to start when you've been abstinent for so long. We've also started to work out together, which is great, and have lost weight, which is also very exciting. Overall, communication has improved, and I cannot wait to see where this leads. I hope this helps someone out there. I'm still very much interested in your feedback and thoughts on this. You all have been a huge help in giving me hope and insight into this tough journey. Trolls aside, many of you have really been instrumental in my journey both emotionally and mentally. I will not be providing any more updates until Memorial Day next year. I think it's now time to keep focusing on myself and start working on all the new opportunities that hopefully will arise with my wife. I wish you all the best in life and your relationships with those you love. TLDR, our marriage took a turn for the better after the 180 method and we're now working on ourselves, each other, and rekindling our marriage. We also set a deadline for next year to either remain together or get divorced. My doctors told my husband and me that our baby has many birth defects. I want to abort, he does not. My doctors told my husband, 30M, and I, 31F, that our baby has many birth defects. I want to abort, he does not. This was a planned baby and I'm absolutely devastated. Me and my husband met in college and have been married for 6 years now. We have one son who is now 4 years old. I know some people are gonna wonder, but yes, we did discuss our moral political views before even getting engaged, and we're both pro-choice. When we were 21 and 20, we made a stupid mistake that ended in a pregnancy. We were both flat broke and not at all ready for kids. I decided to terminate and he fully agreed with and supported me. He loves our son so much and is an amazing father. He confided in me that he loved the idea of having a daughter as well. Luckily, we're in a good financial place, so I agreed and we started trying for a second baby. We conceived fairly quickly and were overjoyed. We also soon discovered that we're having a girl. My husband was so excited. As soon as he was told, he went all out and started to plan her nursery. He asked our son to help him pick which shade of pink he wanted, which crib to get, what the theme should be, etc. It was all so adorable. I don't want to reveal any personal medical history, so forgive me for being vague with the descriptions. At our last doctor's visit a few days ago, we were given the news that our daughter has severe birth defects. They think that she could possibly survive the birth, but any life that she gets to experience will be painful for her. There have been medical cases of babies with the same conditions to survive from early childhood to even the teenage years. These poor children suffer with so much pain and are uncomfortable their entire lives. They are very low functioning and need around-the-clock care as well as several uncomfortable surgeries to try and give them a better quality of life. We were both heartbroken and cried for hours together in the car. Then we drove home in silence. Neither of us said anything until my husband began to quietly mumble his thoughts. He was going on and on about how we needed to schedule another doctor's appointment so we know what medical equipment we'd need to buy for her, and we should renovate the nursery again so we could care for her more easily. He said that he'd definitely have to talk to his boss so he can take a longer paternity leave. He wants to be by her side in the NICU until we can take her home. He talked about how we'd have to ask his mom to babysit our son more often while she's a newborn. He even said that maybe we could sell one of our cars, move to a smaller house, and take our son out of private school so we'd have more money to pay for our daughter's care. I was silent until he asked me what I thought. I was blunt and said that I think we should terminate the pregnancy. Now I feel bad for saying it that way, but I was still frazzled from the news. This made him very upset. He began to cry and ask why I don't want our daughter, even with disabilities. I mentioned our previous abortion. He said it was different because it was unplanned and we had no way to take care of the child. Now we're in a pretty good place financially, so theoretically we could shoulder the cost of our daughter. I have a bit of personal history with this type of situation. My best friend in high school was at my house all the time because her parents were way too busy with her severely autistic older brother. They did love her, but she was pushed to the side her entire childhood. I told him this story. He said that we'd do better by our son and daughter. My best friend's parents were stupid for having a second kid after they already had a disabled one. He then seemed hopeful for a minute and asked if I was just afraid. He promised that he'd be by my side the whole time and we could do this together. I told him it's not about fear. Our daughter will be in pain constantly if she's born alive. It would be a short and painful life for her. I love this baby so much already, I don't want her to suffer like that. He began to yell that even if she doesn't live long we could still pour our hearts and souls into making her life as fulfilling as possible. I didn't respond and he stormed inside. It's been a couple days now and he won't even look me in the eyes. He sits in the new nursery for hours. Our son is very confused. I know he's grieving, but I really don't want to go further with this pregnancy. I love him so much, I have no idea what to do now. TLDR, husband and I learned that our planned daughter has many birth defects that would devastate her quality of life. I want to abort in order to save her from an existence full of pain. My husband wants to keep her so we can love her for however long she lives. Relevant comments. My daughter has a 20-year-old autistic bipolar daughter, my granddaughter. There are 3 daughters in total, one older and one younger. The autistic child cannot self-entertain and will always have the mentality of a 6-year-old child. My daughter's marriage fell apart and the ex-husband wasn't around to take any responsibility. Plus, my daughter was rarely reimbursed for medical and dental out-of-pocket expenses. The oldest daughter, the glass child, was parentified so her mother could work nights. She now has gone no contact with her mother and blocked her everywhere due to her childhood losses. The younger child has lived in the shadow of the autistic sister and has many issues going on. My daughter can't leave the 2 of them at home because the older sister becomes violent. When toddlers, the youngest had to have her hair cut short because her autistic sister would pull her long hair out by the roots and rip her scalp all bloodied. It was awful. My daughter is movie star beautiful, but men who have professed their love for her and had wanted to marry her, but not the disabled daughter. My autistic granddaughter cannot self-entertain and is a Velcro person so is always there. It's been a family tragedy. My daughter is a prisoner in her own home. My ex-husband would not help. I work full-time and had gone to school at night so I was pretty much depleted. Plus, my autistic granddaughter is hard to keep. I love my granddaughter, but I would not wish her life or my daughter's life on my worst enemy. It hurts me to say this, but it would be a mercy to not bring this severely disabled child into the world. What a cruel thing to bring this unborn child into the world. The husband is out of his mind with grief and cannot see the whole picture. The wife needs to make up her own mind, even with the sad choice to divorce if it comes to it. To the haters out there, unless you have walked in another person's shoes, you cannot understand this catastrophic situation. I would also want to terminate, Can you guys talk to a therapist? Do you have time? OP's reply, we have a bit of time, but if we don't resolve this soon, termination will be impossible. Update. Thank you all so much for the advice and kind words. I'm sorry I haven't responded to many chats and comments. I've read through them all. The empathy and compassion shown is truly touching. After I made my original post, my husband and I rushed to get a second opinion. Nothing changed and it was still our original diagnosis. Once I learned that, I scheduled the termination for as soon as physically possible. I didn't tell my husband at first. He kept on raving about how we could give her as much love in her life as we can. I feel bad for this now, but I snapped and angrily told him I was terminating the pregnancy. That I know how he feels, but I will not allow my daughter to suffer just because he wants to love her. He was very angry with me after I put my foot down. After he realized his pleading wouldn't change my mind, he didn't speak a word to me. It was like he refused to even acknowledge my existence. I was terrified that he'd go and leave me all alone with the scraps of our family. I tried to explain it to my son, but I think he still doesn't understand. Then, the night before the procedure, he stepped into my room and apologized for everyone and promised to be more supportive of me from now on. I was so happy and relieved I started to sob and he held me all night. My original plan was that my mom would drive me to the hospital, then once it's done a close friend would take me home. Since it was only the night before, he said he couldn't miss a full day of work, but really wanted to drive me home. I agreed to let him and then the procedure was done in the morning. My son is having a long sleepover with my best friend's family. I don't want him to see me like this. The next morning the termination was done. It went fine with only minor physical pain, but the emotional toll was crushing. After I was done, he didn't show up to get me. I waited for hours and he wouldn't answer any of my calls. I ended up having to call a friend out from work to take me home. When we got there, I saw just one note on the counter saying he can't do this. A few of our daughter's special toys were removed from her nursery. My entire life has fallen apart in a matter of days. I asked my mom to watch my son for a little while. I still can't contact my husband. Everything feels so pointless. Relevant comments. I'm a doctor and I work in an ICU seeing children exactly like the one you may have had. If I were in your position, I would have done the same thing. Let me be clear and say that nobody in your partner's position has a clue of the emotional toll that parents of severely disabled children go through. Everyone thinks they know what it would be like, but they're often wrong, and more often the parents of the child are struggling a lot. Whatever happens, FYW, I think you made the harder, but smarter decision. Who's to say your husband wouldn't leave the exact same way after seeing your daughter suffer alive in actual pain? Leaves you a note on the table one night, I can't do this, and leaves you to care for her yourself. A stranger on the internet messaged me to let me know that my boyfriend and I are all over a couple swapping site. Throwaway, because all of my friends know my main goal. And I'm sorry if the grammar in this post is all over the place. It's late here and I'm kind of freaking out. For the sake of privacy, I'm going to call my BF Ryan and the guy who messaged me Craig. Background. Been with Ryan for 6 months. The relationship is fun and great. Now let's just get straight to it. I was browsing social media before bed when Facebook alerted me that a non-friend was requesting to send me a message. Curious, I opened it and was greeted with a shock. He stopped replying after my second question. Craig. So, heard that you two are into couple swapping. Etc. LOL me. What? Craig, y'all are all over a site for that. Not trying to be a creep at all or odd about it. This would be our first time doing anything like that. Me, can you send me screenshots of that stuff? Sorry if I sound rude. I don't think you're creepy. It's just that as far as I know, my partner and I aren't on any sites for swapping or anything else sexual. Ryan isn't picking up his phone. It's late. I think that someone might have taken our images and put them on some sort of sexual meetup website, and I have no clue what the etc. entailed. And since we were contacted by a man in his 30s, the site must say that we're older than the 18-19-year-old kids we are. I'm also scared because Craig's profile says that he is from the same city that Ryan and I are from. So whatever site we're on has our relative location on it. Maybe Ryan has something to do with it. I want to know how I should proceed from here. Please help. A stranger approached me for a couples swap and alerted me to the fact that my BF and I are all over a swinger site. I don't know how to proceed. Update 1. So after posting this last night, I was exhausted and fell asleep. Craig messaged me again a half hour ago and then stopped responding. I'm hoping for screenshots soon. Craig. Sorry I was asleep. I'll try to find that stuff. My wife and I deleted our profile. Me. Yeah, sorry about this mess. IDK how this could happen unless there were bots or my BF was trying to cheat on me. Craig, no, he wasn't trying to cheat. The profiles had both of you. At this point, I'm afraid it's Ryan. I don't want it to be. He won't answer my text. Update 2. Thank you to everyone who has responded. Something I didn't make clear in the original post is that the first message from Craig was from early January. I hadn't seen it until last night because my Facebook settings have it so I only get alerted to messages from people who aren't my friends, nor have I been given permission to talk to me when I'm in the app or on the website. Last night was the first time I had gone on Facebook in about a month. At this point I'm just waiting to hear back from Ryan still. I'm leaning towards Craig as just some creep, but Ryan's silence is becoming increasingly worrying. I still am going to check swinger sites to make sure none of my pictures are being used. I will update again when this is all figured out. Relevant comments. Comment 1. As a couple that regularly participate in swinging sites, this kind of shit is incredibly common. A guy derives pleasure from sexual chat and fantasizes about either participating in threesomes or engaging in partner swapping. So he'll create a profile without his SO's knowledge and pretend to be swingers so he can chat with real swingers. It's incredibly frustrating as real swingers, and incredibly common. They are pretty easy to figure out after some experience also. The way it normally happens is we start chatting with a couple. After a couple days, we realize that we have only communicated with the male half. We ask for the two women to voice verify via phone or Skype so we know both couples are who they say they are. Dude ghosts or deflects back to sex talk. Reverse image search often leads to their FB profiles. Or searching their email, or their names and location. Regardless, it's easy enough to find them since most guys that do this aren't exactly careful. At that point, a decision is made. Either we're pissed off enough at the dude that we'll contact his SO over FB and rat him out, or we just make a note and move on. We actually busted my cousin's best friend's fiancé doing this. Tracked down the asshole's FB profile, found he was a mutual friend with our cousin, and then found he was engaged to cousin's best friend. As we suspected, she didn't know he was doing this. So as a couple who have been on the other end of this, we're leaning towards your BF being an asshole rather than this being a scam. OP. How should I approach him about this? I don't have any evidence besides the messages from Craig. Comment 2. It is difficult. He has the trusty fallback that real swingers keep in our pocket if anyone were to stumble across our profile on a site. Oh shit, someone stole our pics and made a fake profile. And yeah, it never happens. If people steal pics, it's not vanilla pics from Facebook. Unless you two are Ken and Barbie with very racy pictures on FB, your pics weren't stolen. So you need cooperation from Craig. You need to know which site he found you on. Create a fake profile on that site and find other profiles in your area. Chances are you will stumble across the suspected account. Also browse the MW4MW ads on Craigslist and see if any of the pics or descriptions match you guys. But really, without Craig's help, there's nothing you can do besides snooping on internet history on all PCs and phones. Hopefully Craig will cooperate. Swingers are big on honesty and consent. It's what differentiates us from cheaters. So hopefully he'll give you the details out of a sense of morality. There is always the chance that this is an innocent mistake. Maybe he tracked down the wrong person by mistake. But honestly, we've lived this exact scenario 3 times in the past year alone. It's very, very common for men to catfish couples. When we were new in the lifestyle and didn't know any better, we even had a few "my wife can't make it tonight. Do you mind if it's just the 3 of us?" attempts. OP. Yeah, none of my pictures on Facebook even show my body in any capacity. Only my face. Comment 3. Without evidence, all you can do is tell your BF what happened and gauge his response. Without assistance from Craig, you have nothing to go on. I just hope your BF doesn't have nudes of you, because we've been sent countless nudes of wives and girlfriends by catfishing husbands, boyfriends. I really hope for your sake that I'm wrong and this is just a case of mistaken identity. Maybe we're just sour because it's happened to us so many times. I really hope so for your sake. But the circumstances sound just a bit too familiar. Final update. Thank you so much again. All of y'all have made this day easier. Also, I want to mention that I hope I never came across as shaming the swinging community. All of y'all from that community were so kind and helpful, and my problem with all of this wasn't that the concept of swinging was scary, just the fact that my information and photos were being used without my knowledge. So let's get to it. Ryan ended up texting me that he wanted to see me. I got a bad vibe, so I asked him to call me instead. You all were right. It was him. Apparently the fantasy of swinging was a special kink for him and he used those sites to masturbate. I couldn't find the profiles on any sites because he had listed our ages as 23/24 and I had been searching for couples 18/19. Craig couldn't find our information because when Ryan received my text last night he went into damage control mode and deleted everything. He had used inappropriate photos of me to lure people into chatting with him. I'm young and relatively attractive, so I guess I was a good bet. I threatened to call and tell my dad, who is a sheriff, about all of this if he doesn't take down all of it. I'm meeting him at a coffee shop tomorrow to look through his phone and laptop to ensure all my photos are gone. Needless to say, we're done. Craig said he was sorry and that he didn't want to speak with me ever again. And that him and his wife only were interested in swinging because they thought Ryan and I were hot. I still don't know how the fuck he found me on Facebook, and he stopped responding. So I blocked him. Today was kind of a shit day. Relevant comments. Comment 1. OP, I read your updates and I am so sorry that this has happened to you. Needless to say that I think it was very good that you so firmly decided to not give him another chance. I just feel that I have to say one more thing. I would tell your dad anyway. Even if Ryan shows you an empty phone and an empty laptop, you have no idea if he's made a backup somewhere. An extra hard drive or a cloud service. Besides, your photos were out on the internet for God knows how long. There's a big chance that someone else have these photos on their computer now. There's a reason why posting images of unknowing participants is illegal. I recommend that you tell your dad and report Ryan OP. Yeah, I'll definitely talk to my dad. It's going to be an awkward conversation, but you're right. Ryan did something terrible to me and who knows who else he's stolen photos from.